Chapter 167. Lan Hua was a genius. Whether it was during his time as an immortal cultivator or after he became a demon, he was a well-deserved top genius. He had never doubted this in his life. He was born in a top-notch cultivation family in the lower realm. He possessed the 1 in a million supreme grade 5 elemental spirit root. His cultivation speed was several times faster than a heaven spirit root. Due to his all-elemental spiritual root, he could practice any cultivation technique. Unlike others who specialized in one path, he simply learned everything. He was an all-rounder who was proficient in alchemy, talismans, tools, and formations. He could be considered the only cultivator in both the immortal realm and the mortal realm who was an all-element cultivator. It only took him 500 years to ascend. After ascending to the upper realm, he became a golden immortal in 100 years, a profound immortal in 150 years, a Stygian immortal in 300 years, an exalted immortal in 600 years, an emperor in 1,000 years, and then an immortal emperor in another 1,000 years. In less than 4,000 years, he became a celestial emperor who could shake the world. It could also be considered the path to immortality. Is 500 years of ascension considered fast? Shen Ying suddenly interjected upon hearing this. Of course, Lan Hua said proudly. The mortal realm's spirit qi is not comparable to immortal qi, and it has always been thin. Ascension was naturally not easy. Without 1,000 years of bitter cultivation, it was basically impossible to ascend to the great Tao. I'm not bragging, but no one in the entire immortal world can fly faster than me. Before he could finish, Lone Moon suddenly said, "Oh, I ascended more than 400 years ago." He felt like he had been shot in the knee. Before Xiaoqin could question Xiaoqin, he heard the crowd discussing the time of ascension. "I Ching, I have less than 200 years. Yu Hong replied, "I ascended 180 years ago. What about you guys?" Siyu replied, "I'm short of someone who ascended in 90 years. Disciple 3, I think I'm 45. Disciple 4, I've only cultivated for 20 years. Disciple 5, don't mention it. I've never cultivated before. I've only been in the sect for 2 months when Senior Sister Hong came to inform me. Only then did I know that you've ascended." So, Lan Hua's body was instantly covered with knives. Were you trying to fool? For all, Ngungo, even if it was 400 years, what the hell were those after that? How could he ascend to become an immortal in such a short time? Why don't you King find someone to ascend after cultivating for 2 months? Ha. Lan Hua took a deep breath. That's right. These people must be talking nonsense. Instantly he felt a little angry. What's the point of teaming up to scare me? Do you still want to hear my confession? What they said was true, but seeing that he looked like he was about to explode, everyone stopped their discussion. Okay, you confess. Please continue your performance. Lan Hua snorted coldly before continuing his story. Lan Hua's story was actually quite melodramatic. It could be summed up in 4 words: brothers fighting. Lan Hua was a cultivation maniac, and he was proficient in all types of spells. Aside from cultivation, he was not interested in anything else. He had only done 3 things in his life. The first was to go into seclusion, the second was to train, and the third was to comprehend. It was precisely because of this focus that Lan Hua cultivated the fastest and was also the strongest among all the heavenly emperors. However, when it came to other matters, especially human relationships, he was completely clueless. Thus he made a fatal mistake. He brought his younger brother, Lan Yu, to the immortal realm and wholeheartedly handed over an entire continent to him to manage. Until now, he still could not understand why his younger brother, whom he had protected since he was young, would hate him so much that he would purposely lead him to become a demon. At that time, he had just become a heavenly emperor and had not been in charge of a continent for long. He had already cultivated all kinds of spells to the limit. It was as if he had suddenly lost his purpose in life. Coincidentally, Lan Yu told him that he had inadvertently obtained an ancient immortal technique and sent it to him. Immediately he was overjoyed. He tried to practice it and found that his cultivation actually showed signs of loosening. Thus he threw himself into it. However, he did not expect that it was a demonic technique and that he had already planted a demonic seed in it. He had never been on guard against Lan Yu. By the time he realized it, it was already too late. He could not stop himself from becoming a demon. In less than 1,000 years, half of his immortal qi had turned into demonic qi. At first he was very angry and wanted to kill Lan Yu. However, after practicing demonic techniques for a long time, he unexpectedly found that his cultivation did not regress. Instead, it increased. This demon's cultivation method was actually completely different from that of immortals. As a diligent and studious prodigy, he immediately gave up resisting out of curiosity and completely became a demon. However, his younger brother did not intend to let him go so easily. He directly spread the news that he had become a demon and even personally led the other 9 heavenly emperors to his hiding place, wanting to kill him. In a fit of anger, Lan Hua went all out. He rolled up his sleeves and fought with a few of them. 1 against 9, he fought for a few days, turning the entire heavens beyond heaven upside down. And then, you lost? Shining suddenly asked. Lan Hua's chest tightened. He felt like he had been stabbed again. His face instantly turned red. He shouted angrily, "Who lost? It's a draw. A draw, all right? I could hold on for so long and still escape unscathed. In terms of results, I already won." "Oh. Get rid of that doubtful look of yours. If not for the fact that I am not a sky fiend yet, I would have gone to seek revenge on them long ago." "So you hid for thousands of years?" Whoosh. There was another stab in his chest. "Do you even know how to chat? You call that hiding? I'm cultivating. I'm not afraid of them. Based on the cultivation of those hypocrites, which one of them could last more than 2 hours against me? So, you still lost a chef?" My heart hurts. I can't continue this conversation. Lone Moon, who was at the side, patted his shoulder hard and gave him a sympathetic look. "You have nothing better to do, yet you have to talk about life with a cheat. Isn't it good to live well?" "Boss, what happened after that? What happened to the younger brother who stabbed you in the back?" Shining asked as she munched on some melon seeds. "Get lost. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I've already become a porcupine." "Lan Yu? What could it be? Emperor Lan Yu?" Bitao suddenly looked shocked. He said excitedly, great immortal, I remember now. Lan Yu is the current celestial emperor of the Yunzhe continent. His younger brother must have replaced him as the celestial emperor." "Shut up. I don't need you to add on. Our invincible sect is here to bring him down. Don't demons care about their reputation?" All right. Stop gossiping." Lone Moon turned to the disciples and said, "It's getting late. We have to get to the heavens beyond heaven as soon as possible." Lone Moon had already planned for this mystic spirits and immortals meeting. They would only participate in the Earth Immortal and Mystic Immortal competitions. That was why he had chosen a total of 15 disciples. Including the 3 of them, there would be less than 20 people. But Lan Hua's appearance had disrupted part of his plans. For the sake of the disciples, Lone Moon had to bring him along just in case. Everyone's cultivation levels were different. In order to arrive at the heavens beyond heaven on time, they had to sit on the gigantic Dharma artifact, the 10-direction boat, that Boss Lan had kindly sponsored. "Yu Hong, see you, go to the front and take over for Qi Qingyu and Feng Ying. The rest of you rest. Don't forget that the competition is waiting for you. Stop gossiping and focus on your cultivation." "Yes, Elder." The disciples replied in unison and went their separate ways. Yu Hong and Si Yu also went to the front to take over. Only Lan Hua was left sitting in the middle of the array, his face as black as ink. "Weren't you the ones who wanted to force a confession out of him? Since when did his confession become gossip? Since you didn't want to hear it, why did you beat him up the whole night yesterday? Come back and tell me everything." He was a demon who had been hiding for so many years. Now he was forced to go to the heavens beyond heaven to die. How could it be easy for him? It was all that damned good heart's fault. At this thought, he immediately turned to glare at a certain someone. Subconsciously, he opened his mouth and shouted, "It's all your fault." "Wait, what are you eating? What kind of messy fruit is this? Can you eat something that has no immortal chi at all?" His expression changed. Throw it away, throw it away. Here, this is the jade cloud fruit I picked last night. If you want to eat this. Also, why are you still wearing this gray robe? Where's the Dharma robe I gave you? Why aren't you changing into it? The Dharma artifact is flying so fast. What if it gets blown off? Why are you sitting so far away? That's the side. How am I going to pull you up if you fall off? Come over quickly. Also, swoosh. A familiar long sword suddenly appeared on his neck, and a certain someone said with a straight face, "Master, why don't we just kill this person? Don't burden the sect." Lan Hua, Shining, Lone Moon, King Retard. Chapter 168. Because there were too many people, Shining and the others took more than half a month to pass through the 9 heavenly gates and reach the heavens beyond heaven. The moment the 10-direction boat passed through the realm gates, the originally quiet heavenly realm was filled with noise. Around them there were many large Dharma treasures of all shapes and sizes. Some were huge lotus flowers, some were chessboards, some were immortal seals, and most of them were immortal boats like theirs. They could faintly see immortal shadows swaying inside, but because of the array formation, they couldn't see what was going on inside clearly. These immortal artifacts were all luxurious and full of immortal chi. But none of them looked like the one they were sitting on now. Its entire body was as white as jade, and it was surrounded by the golden light of a nouveau riche. Compared to the different colored immortal boats in front of them, their boat looked even more impressive. The people on these immortal boats looked like they were also here to attend the immortals' gathering. But which country's emperor brought them here? Lone Moon counted carefully and realized that there were more than 8 boats. These people had obviously arrived earlier than them. From time to time, immortals would fly out of the Dharma artifact boat and onto other Dharma artifact boats, as if they were exchanging greetings. So although everyone else was some monarch of some country bringing their disciples to participate in the immortal gathering naturally attracted everyone's attention. Divine perception swept over from time to time as if trying to find out what was going on, but when he took a closer look at the post, there was nothing wrong with it. Instantly, more and more people's gazes swept over. He didn't intend to fly into the 10-direction boat. The sky full of immortal artifacts in front of him. He did not expect the heavens beyond heaven to be jammed too. But why did the bustling realm beyond heaven suddenly become quiet? An immortal dressed in white flew over on an immortal crane make way for him. He wore a crown on his head and looked like an immortal official. Did they want to fly closer to communicate? That person stopped outside the relationship between the various countries become so good and bowed towards the immortal officer. His voice wasn't loud, but it was thinking of his mission. He didn't think too much about it and directly led the immortal boat behind him to fly in. I'm here to welcome everyone to the immortal palace. May I know which emperor has arrived? Lone Moon looked around. So there was a traffic police. Indeed, the divine perception that had landed on the immortal boat had all been hurriedly retracted beside him, who were not involved. It seemed that I Ching's beating had some effect. He stepped forward and replied loudly, "The immortal officer for about 10 minutes. Master has brought this was indeed the realm beyond heaven. The mystic spirits the deeper they flew, the thicker the immortal chi around them became. Countless immortal mountains he conjured a seal and the invitation card in his hand flew out. Compared to the lonely immortal ascension stage they went to previously, why did this reply sound so strange? This place was many times better. They could even feel the aura of several immortal meridians. All the disciples on the boat couldn't help but look around excitedly and curiously. Except for Lan Hua. From the moment they entered the 9-layered immortal gate, he didn't say a word. Logically speaking, immortal chi shouldn't have much effect on a demon at his level of cultivation. He really wasn't afraid of some immortal chi. But this was the realm beyond heavens after all. For all he knew, he might bump into those bastards, the celestial emperors. But now he was trapped in an array formation, guarded by a young emperor sword immortal who didn't like him the entire time. Not to mention fighting him head-on, he might not even be able to keep his life. Along the way, he had been trying his best to hide his demonic chi, hoping to find an opportunity to escape. However, the sword immortal named I Ching seemed to find him particularly unpleasant. Not only did he threaten to kill him at every turn, he was also guarding against him like a thief. Even if he stretched out his leg, an immortal sword would stab him. He really had no choice but to follow them all the way to the realm beyond heavens. So it's all over. It looks like these people are going to hand him over to that bastard, Chingu. It's all because of that damned kindness. Boss, this is for you. Just as he was thinking, he felt a weight on his neck. Something was hanging on him. Stunned, he looked at the necklace on his neck, then looked up at Kindness. This is a blocker that baby gave me, Shining said casually. It's used to hide the smog on your body. Don't throw it away. You have to return it. What did she mean? Who was baby? Lan Hua looked confused. He took a closer look and realized that all the demonic chi around him had disappeared. He looked just like an ordinary earth immortal. This necklace. It could actually hide his demonic chi. Lan Hua's eyes widened. He looked up and asked stupidly, Didn't you want to hand me over to the Celestial Emperor? Celestial Emperor? Shining paused and asked seriously, Do you owe him money? No. Oh. Then why did you hand it over to him? Lan Hua was speechless. He looked at the necklace on his neck again. He felt like he was dreaming. Then why did they bring him here? They said they were going to make a trip. Was it really just a trip? What happened to the saying that immortals and demons could not coexist? Suddenly, a familiar warmth flowed from the bottom of his heart for no reason. The feeling from the last time when he gave her the fruit surged up again. It rushed into his eyes and made his eyes feel a little hot. His heart felt stifled and suffocated. Wait, this feeling is kindness, don't be rash. So, he took out a storage bag. Immortal pills, Dharma artifacts, Dharma talismans. Take whatever you want. There's no need to return it to me. You still have more. Oh, big boss. I replenished some when I returned to the Willow Forest. After all, he was a celestial emperor. He did not lack these things. What else do you want? Air, immortal dash, immortal stones? Here, here, here. He took out 2 more bags with tears in his eyes. These are immortal stones and some immortal fruits. Take them, take them, take them all. I beg you to stay away from me. Don't be so nice to me, alright? Alright. Thank you, boss. Shining turned and left. Lan Hua's heart was bleeding. He had to restrain the urge to take out his intrinsic Dharma artifact. Kindness and all that was too scary. The onlookers and lone moons, it was the right decision to let Shining bring them over. Chapter 169. Compared to the ordinary immortal cities in the immortal realm, the heavens beyond heaven was obviously much larger. Although there were no bustling streets, there were many floating immortal palaces. To prevent unnecessary conflicts between countries, the Immortal Rainbow Palace prepared a floating immortal residence for every team participating in the immortal gathering. Shining and her group were also arranged to stay in an independent immortal residence. Because there were not many of them, it seemed a little empty. They had not rested for long when the immortal in charge of receiving them came again, saying that the Celestial Emperor had invited the country emperors to discuss the competition the next day. Lone Moon said a few words to Yu Hong, then brought Shining and Yi Qing over. Only now did they see the so-called Immortal Rainbow Palace. As expected of the residence of the Celestial Emperor, it was different from the other immortal palaces. The entire palace seemed to be made of huge crystals that floated high in the sky, reflecting the sunlight and emitting a rainbow-like luster. From time to time, something swam inside. Lone Moon walked closer and realized that it was actually an immortal meridian. There were several immortal meridians surrounding the immortal palace. Even the crystal-like walls were formed by the condensation of immortal chi. He could not help but feel surprised. Immortal meridians were difficult to find. A complete immortal meridian could allow an ordinary earth immortal to ascend to an exalted immortal. Didn't the Qing Tong Immortal Abode Master destroy the Azure World time and time again to nurture an immortal meridian? Who would have thought that immortal meridians were so worthless in the heavens beyond heaven that they could be used to build houses? The immortal who received them led them to the entrance of the immortal palace, pointed in the direction of the main hall in front, and stopped. They walked a few steps closer. From afar they could hear the voices of the people in the hall. There were also a few familiar auras. The 3 of them thanked him and walked directly into the main hall. The moment they entered the hall, the voices inside stopped, as if someone had pressed a pause button. Dozens of eyes in the hall turned to look at the entrance. Especially the 8 people sitting in the innermost area, their faces turned green and white. It was an indescribable sight. They glanced at Yi Qing, then hurriedly looked away. The silence in the hall was a little strange. You're finally here. You're here. A familiar voice came from the right. Sun Shu, who had been sitting silently all this time, immediately waved at the 3 people at the entrance and pointed to the empty seat beside him. The 3 of them walked over only to realize that Qinggu had not arrived yet. Thinking about it, it was normal. After all, he was the Celestial the Arch, so he naturally had to appear at the end. They were considered to have arrived late. There were already dozens of people inside. He recognized everyone sitting there. Apart from Sun Shu, there were also the country emperors who had been beaten up by Yi Qing. Their expressions were all ugly. Behind each of them stood a few immortals, most likely their disciples. All the country emperors were looking at Yi Qing. They didn't know if it was an illusion, but they suddenly felt their bodies aching. Everyone simultaneously recalled the scene of a certain day, and their expressions changed again and again. They looked as if they wanted to explode in anger, but did not dare to do so. Back then they had been beaten up so badly. Naturally they wanted revenge. However, due to his reputation, he couldn't openly make things difficult for him. On top of that, with his cultivation, he really didn't dare to face him head-on. That was why they wanted to submit a joint report to the God Monarch, who knew that the Celestial Emperor would not care at all. Not long after, news spread that he had been promoted to Young Emperor. Today he was even invited to the Mystic Spirits and Immortals meeting in the name of Invincible Sect. Naturally, everyone knew the reason behind it in their hearts. Being able to attend the Mystic Spirits and Immortals meeting meant that the Celestial Emperor had already recognized his status as equal to the country emperors. Even if he were to establish a country and become an emperor in the future, they wouldn't be able to say anything. They could only swallow the grudge of being beaten up the last time. They watched as the 3 of them walked through the main hall towards Sun Shu. I Ching walked at the front and there were only two people behind him. The country emperors subconsciously glanced at them. One was an exalted immortal, the other was an earth immortal. They were all unfamiliar faces. In the main hall there was only an empty chair next to Sun Shu. They thought that I Ching would sit down, but unexpectedly he only took a step to the side. On the other hand, the woman behind him sat down with a natural expression on her face. The last exalted immortal followed I Ching and stood on the other side of the chair. Everyone couldn't help but feel surprised. They began to guess at the woman's identity. Why was the young emperor I Ching so respectful towards her? But no matter how they looked at it, she was just an earth immortal. Yet they didn't dare to go over and ask. Even Sun Shu, who was standing beside them, looked at them as if it was only natural. He turned around and said, "You're finally here. I can't even find someone to talk to. I'm dying of boredom. By the way, how many people did you bring this time?" "Young Emperor Sun, you seem to be well prepared." Lone Moon did not answer. Instead he looked at the 4 or 5 people behind him. Although their cultivation levels were not high, they were surrounded by sword chi. One look and Lone Moon could tell that they were sword immortals. They must be the new tribesmen he had found. Not well prepared. Sun Shu smiled. He looked at the people behind him and said, "I only brought a few of them. The competition is secondary. The main thing is for them to see the world. Of course it would be better if they could win." "I see." Something flashed across Lone Moon's eyes. "I wonder how the people young Emperor Sun is looking for are coming along." "It's going well." Sun Shu smiled. His already coquettish face looked even more despicable now. He said smugly, "I've already found more than 10 people." "Then congratulations, young lord." Lone Moon nodded sincerely. Then he changed the topic and said, "In that case, in the future when you want to refine immortal weapons, young Emperor can deliver the goods in advance." Sun Shu was at a loss for words. He wanted to spit blood at Lone Moon's face. The warm feeling he had when he met Lone Moon was instantly extinguished. "Hey, do you have any shame? What do you take me for? I've already refined immortal weapons for you for so many years. Are you going to let me live?" "Don't worry, young Emperor. Just deliver the goods 10 days to half a month in advance. We can wait." "Didn't you only give me a month's time?" "Is that so? Then what do you think about delivering the goods every week? That's every 7 days. Get lost." "Young Emperor, do you know any friends who refine pills? Those who make talismans are fine too." "That's enough. Young Emperor, don't be angry. Let's talk about it slowly. We're reasonable people." Lone Moon was already in business mode. He pulled Sun Shu along and started chatting. At first, Sun Shu was obviously angry. Then he became confused. In the end, he really started to ask Lone Moon questions about which sect in the immortal realm had the best life skills. The two people at the side were obviously used to it. They did not even look to the side. One was busy munching on the immortal fruits on the table, while the other was busy passing them to him. From time to time, they would replenish their supplies from their storage bags. Seeing that the few of them had no intention of settling the score with them, the country emperors were no longer as wary as before. As they waited for the celestial emperor to arrive, they started chatting in 2s and 3s. However, their voices were clearly much softer than before. At this moment, a girl suddenly flew down from the door. She looked to be about 15 or 16 years old and was dressed in pink. Her clothes were embroidered with the unique pattern of the immortal Rainbow Palace. Her cultivation level was only that of an earth immortal. Chapter 170. Everyone glanced at her. Seeing that she was an immortal official from the immortal Rainbow Palace, they did not pay much attention to her. But she walked straight in looking innocent and naive. She sized up the people in the room boldly. "Wow, so these are the country emperors," she suddenly said. Suddenly she saw Shening sitting in the middle, chewing on a fruit. Shocked, her eyes brightened. She walked over quickly and stood in front of Shening. "Hey, there's a big sister here." Her eyes widened as she looked Shening up and down. She asked in a friendly tone, big sister, which country are you from?" She subconsciously reached out to hold Shenying's hand. I Ching frowned and stepped forward to stop her. "Master is still drinking tea. Don't be rude." The girl seemed to have just noticed the teacup in Shenying's hand. She took a step back and stuck out her tongue playfully. "Sorry, big sister. I was too excited to see you. I didn't realize you were holding a cup of tea." Shening did not reply. She lowered her head and took a sip. "Big sister, why aren't you saying anything?" She tilted her head and looked at her even more intently. "I was just curious when I saw that there was a big sister among the country emperors." "Oh yes, I'm Hui Ling. What's your name?" Hui Ling. She had just finished speaking when a man in white rushed in. He first bowed to the country emperors, then looked at the girl helplessly. How could you come here? This is the place where the country emperors discuss business. Senior brother Lu Ming, I'm a genius. I'm here to take a look. The girl pouted. She did not look guilty at all. Instead, she pulled the man and said excitedly, Senior brother, look, I found a big sister among the country emperors. It's a pity that big sister doesn't want to tell me which country she's from. Lu Ming paused and looked at Shining. He seemed to have seen through her cultivation level. Shocked, he hurriedly tugged at the girl. Junior sister, don't talk nonsense. I'm not talking nonsense. Hui Ling looked indignant. She looked at Shining again. Senior brother, you are good at lying to me. You said that there are no female immortals in Fengtsang continent. Now there is. Junior sister. Lu Ming felt even more awkward. He looked at Shining apologetically, but when he turned to Hui Ling, he did not seem to be blaming her. Instead, his eyes were filled with affection. This is not the monarch. Be obedient and come back with me. No. Hui Ling was shocked. Her eyes widened in disbelief as she stared at Shining. She snorted and said in a reproachful tone, If big sister is not the monarch, why would you be sitting here? Wasn't that a seat only reserved for monarchs? Sister, please get up. This is against the rules. The moment she said that, everyone's expression changed, especially Lone Moon and Yi Qin. Even the emperors of the various countries looked over as if they were watching a good show. They had long been curious about the woman's identity, but they didn't dare to ask. On the other hand, the protagonist, who was sitting on the chair, calmly nibbled on his fruit as if he hadn't heard what they said. Lu Ming's face stiffened. His junior sister couldn't tell, but he could. Although this woman looked like an earth immortal, the person standing behind her was obviously a young emperor. Lu Ming's tone became more serious. Junior sister, don't talk nonsense. Hui Ling did not understand his hint. She said in a low voice, feeling wronged, I didn't say anything wrong. This fairy really knows how to talk. Lone Moon laughed coldly and took a step forward. Dare I ask, is it written on this seat that only monarchs can sit on it? Or is there a rule in the immortal Rainbow Palace that states that the sect master of Invincible Sect can't sit here? Or is it that Celestial Emperor Chen Gu personally invited us here? Just to make our sect master stand here as punishment? In the entire immortal and mortal realms, no one dared to make Shining angry. Where did this pretentious B***TCH come from? What right did she have? This. Lu Ming was at a loss for words. He cupped his fists and bowed. My junior sister is young and ignorant. She said the wrong thing. Please forgive her this time. He didn't expect them to be the invincible sect that the Celestial Emperor had mentioned. He thought for a moment and gave the person beside him a look. His voice became serious as he said, Hui Ling. The corner of the woman's mouth turned up, but she did not feel the slightest bit guilty. Instead, she looked aggrieved. She hugged Lu Ming's hand and shook it coquettishly. Senior brother. I'm sorry. I didn't do it on purpose. Why was she so petty? Lone Moon's expression darkened. Who was she apologizing to? Lu Ming turned to look at Shining, who had not moved from her seat. Sect Master, my junior sister is just a small immortal. She offended you just now. Please be magnanimous and forgive her. Shining raised her head and looked at the innocent Hui Ling. After a moment of silence, she nodded and said, All right. Lu Ming heaved a sigh of relief and was about to say something. Shining suddenly stood up and took 2 steps forward. She raised her hand and poured the tea in the cup over Hui Ling's head. Hui Ling clearly did not expect Shining to do that. She was stunned. In an instant, she was drenched in tea. There was even a small handful of tea leaves on her head. The crowd had not reacted. Shining suddenly turned around and looked at Lone Moon. Imitating Hui Ling, she said in a flat voice, Father Nyo, I'm sorry. I didn't do it on purpose. Lone Moon paused, then understood immediately. He cupped his fists and said in the same tone as Lu Ming, Fellow immortal, my sect master is young and immature. She did something wrong. Please forgive her this time. Lu Ming, Hui Ling, the crowd, 2 seconds later. Pui, ha. Sun Shu sprawled on the coffee table and laughed maniacally. Only then did he realize that no one who could ascend to immortality was really young. Shining was just returning the same words to them. This was a slap in the face. They would never be able to face the words young and immature again. Hui Ling could tell that they were mocking her for pretending to be young and immature. Instantly she was embarrassed and angry. Her face turned red and she stamped her feet. With her hair wet, she ran out crying. Junior sister. Lu Ming shouted. He turned to look at them unhappily, then turned to chase after Hui Ling. Lone Moon gave the cheat beside him a thumbs up and heaved a huge sigh of relief. He had long been annoyed by that little bitch who was pretending to be naive. She just saw that Xining did not have any immortal chi on her and thought that she was an earth immortal. She was clearly implying that Xining did not deserve to sit here. A bunch of ignorant people. If Xining was not worthy, then no one in the immortal realm was. Well done. I want to give you more food. More food. Xining tilted her head and continued speaking in a flat tone. Father Nyo, what are you saying? I didn't do anything. Hey. Are you addicted to pretending to be green tea? I'm telling the truth. That's enough. Get rid of the word, You're not cut out for that, alright? Forget about your tone, at least show some expression. You're so annoying. You're bullying me again. Shy. How the hell are your expressions supposed to be spoken? I added parentheses. Parentheses my ass. Do you think adding parentheses to WeChat makes it an emoticon? Wait. I'm not talking about making faces. Put your hands down. Chapter 171. Xining and the others did not have to wait long. About 15 minutes later, immortal chi surged at the door and a few figures landed. The country emperors who had been whispering to each other stood up and bowed to the door. Greetings, Celestial Emperor. A person walked in through the door. He was dressed in white and had black hair. His entire body was surrounded by immortal chi, and his face was well defined. Although he was not as devilish as Sun Shu and Radish in the celestial world where the overall standard was high, he could be considered outstanding. He had a gentle and kind face, but there was a sense of authority about him that could not be ignored. But he did not have the childishness that he had when he was Ningxian. It was not just his appearance. He had completely changed back to Celestial Emperor Qin Gu nodded at the crowd and walked directly to the main seat in the hall. He stopped when he saw Xining, who was still focused on eating. All the country emperors in the hall stood up and bowed to him. She was the only one sitting. He didn't know if it was because no one was paying attention, but no one noticed. Sect Master Shen, long time no see. Qin Gu stopped and looked at her with a smile. He asked casually, was the journey smooth? Xining still had half a piece of pastry in her mouth. She nodded and swallowed. It was pretty good. Thank you. Who was this person? That's good. Only then did he nod his head in relief. The country emperors' faces darkened. No wonder the Celestial Emperor ignored their joint request. He was already acquainted with Invincible Sect. They could not help but worry. Qin Gu continued to walk in, but a malicious gaze suddenly swept over the three of them. Lone Moon looked up and saw a man and a woman following behind Qin Gu. One was Lu Ming, and the other was dressed in emerald green. It was Hui Ling. She changed her clothes quite quickly. She seemed to be very unhappy with Xining. She glared at Xining when Qin Gu turned around and snorted softly. It was as if she was saying, just you wait. It was clearly a malicious gaze, but she looked like a spoiled little girl. It was hard to get angry. Xining tilted her head. Before she could retract her expression, she suddenly pulled her face with both hands and stuck out her tongue, making an even more professional face at her. Hui Ling was stunned. She didn't expect him to do this. Startled by her, he stumbled and fell forward. Junior sister. Lu Ming was shocked and quickly held onto the person beside him so that she didn't fall face first. Are you all right? Even Qin Gu, who was about to sit down, turned around. Little Ling, what's wrong? You can't even walk without falling? Hui Ling was so angry that she could no longer maintain the innocent expression on her face. Suddenly she recalled Lone Moon's mocking words. His heart felt like it was on fire and his eyes turned red. Before he could stand still, he pointed at Xining and said angrily, Master, she scared me on purpose just now. Xining, who had already regained her composure, sat calmly on the chair. Bite me. Instead, Lone Moon was shocked. Master. She was actually Qin Ji's disciple. How could that be? Qin Gu frowned and said sternly, Little Ling, don't spout nonsense. I'm not spouting nonsense. Hui Ling seemed to be extremely angry. Tears welled up in her eyes as she revealed what had happened earlier. She obviously doesn't like me. Just now she even poured tea on my head. Senior brother, you saw it too. Master. Lu Ming stepped forward and said, Junior sister is not lying. Junior sister came in out of curiosity just now. Sect Master Shen did have some conflict with her. As soon as he finished speaking, Lone Moon, I Ching, and even Sun Shu's faces darkened. What was going on just now? Everyone knew that Lu Ming's words were obviously saying that Xining was the one who bullied them. Lone Moon snorted coldly and was about to argue. But Qin Ji's expression darkened. He shouted first, "Shut up. I believe in Sect Master Shin's character. The two of you must have neglected an important guest." "Master?" Hui Ling raised her head in disbelief. His voice became even colder as he turned to look at Lu Ming. "As her senior brother, you did nothing to stop her and allowed her to do as she pleased. Both of you are to face the wall at Qingxin Peak and reflect on your mistakes. You are not allowed to leave without my permission." "Master." Lu Ming fell to his knees, looking flustered. "But tomorrow is the competition. You don't have to participate." He turned to Hui Ling. "You too." "Master." Hui Ling looked like she had suffered a huge blow. As if a switch had been turned on, tears streamed down her face. She turned to look at Shining, sniffled, turned and ran out. Lu Ming bowed, his face pale. Then he turned and left to receive his punishment. "Sect Master Shin." Qin Gu softened his tone and looked at Shin Ying apologetically. "It's my fault for not disciplining her properly. Little Ling is a disciple I brought up from the mortal realm. She had a tragic life and suffered a lot. That's why I spoiled her. That's why she offended Sect Master Shin. Please forgive her." "Oh, it's fine," Shin Ying replied nonchalantly. Lone Moon's frown deepened. What a coincidence. Qin Gu then sat down and looked at the country emperors in the hall. In a low voice he said, "Thank you for your hard work." Everyone responded. Their eyes could not help but drift to Shin Ying. They did not know where this woman came from. How could the celestial emperor reprimand his own disciple for her? They could not help but be more wary of the invincible sect. What followed was a long series of official speeches and all kinds of commercial boasting. At the same time, they informed everyone about the competition schedule and venue. Then they went their separate ways. What was strange was that Lone Moon, who had always been like a fish in water in such occasions, did not speak again. He just stood where he was, looking like he was deep in thought. The next day was the official competition. The moment Lone Moon returned, he summoned the 15 participating disciples to discuss the tactics for the competition. Unlike the sect competition in the lower realm, the immortal realm's competition was much more advanced. Moreover, all the groups would be held at the same time. All those who were young emperors and above had the ability to open mystic realms. What's more, there were many immortal meridians and abundant immortal qi. Qin Gu directly opened up an independent mystic realm for each group of participants. There were all kinds of realms inside. There was no need to go through the trouble of competing one by one. He just threw the entire group in. Those who entered could fight freely. Everyone had an immortal talisman with them. If they could not win, they could crush the talisman and come out of the mystic realm. There were 10 special array flags in each group, and the mystic realm would close after 6 hours. At that time, all the people who were still inside would be ejected, and the last 10 people who obtained the array flags would be the winners. It was simple and violent. It did not waste time. After the top 10 were decided, they would fight each other to determine their ranking. There are 4 groups in this competition. They are divided according to their cultivation, Lone Moon instructed seriously. So you don't have to worry. The people you will meet in the mystic realm will be of the same cultivation level as you. Just do what you usually do. Yes. Everyone replied in unison. Yuhong, see you. He looked at the 2 people on the right. There are only 5 people in the Golden Immortal group. The 2 of you will lead the group. You can take care of each other. Yes, Elder. The 2 of them nodded. As for the Earth Immortal group, he scanned the remaining 10 people. Most of them were disciples who were recruited later. They did not have enough experience. Feng Ying, Qinyu. The 2 of you have more experience. It's not your first time in the mystic realm. I'll leave the rest to you. All right. Feng Ying nodded. Brother Lone Moon, don't worry. I'll look after them. Nobody knows what the mystic realm will look like tomorrow. It's good to get the array flags. If we really can't get them, we don't have to fight. Lone Moon's expression darkened. Getting out safely is the most important thing. They were not familiar with the terrain and could not come up with any good ideas. He sighed. Then he glanced at a certain person who was lying on the table like a pile of mud. His brows furrowed. You're the sect master. Can't you at least say something? Oh. Shining turned to look at the group. She thought for a moment and said, Actually, I do have an idea. Lone Moon was shocked. He looked at her in surprise. What idea? What? What did she mean? As the saying goes, hide and you'll live longer. Lone Moon, everyone, hide my ass. Do you think the Mystic Realm competition is a chicken dinner? If you hide, you won't become a box. I think Master's words make sense. I Ching nodded in agreement. Lone Moon immediately glared at him. Master, you're bragging. You don't have to say what she said makes sense. I Ching ignored him and continued, there are many Earth Immortals and Golden Immortals. There are thousands of Earth Immortals participating. That means there are at least hundreds of people from each country. Just the few of them alone, even if they get the array flags, they won't be able to fight so many people. It's better to hide first. When the countries are almost done fighting, the number of people will naturally decrease. If they get the array flags now, they will have a higher chance of winning. Lone Moon paused. Thinking about it that way, it did make some sense. The disciples understood too. They looked at Xining with shining eyes. She was the sect master indeed. All right, we'll do that? Lone Moon said. After you go in, don't be in a hurry to fight. Act according to the situation. Yes. Xining waved her hand. All the best. Get chicken dinner tomorrow. Lone Moon. You're still talking about getting chicken dinner? I Ching. Master is going to get chicken dinner tomorrow. We can start preparing. The disciples. Sect master is indeed unfathomable. Mystic spirits and spirits meeting. Xining and the others arrived early, but the competition venue was already surrounded by many people. At a glance, it was a sea of people. There were at least tens of thousands of people. This was more than the number of people they saw when they first came to heavens beyond heaven. After asking around, they found out that it was not just Fengtsang continent. The country emperors of other continents had also sent people to participate. As usual, Lone Moon gave his disciples a pep talk. He even dragged Xining along to give these die-hard fans some encouragement and personally sent them to the waiting area. Then he brought Xining and I Ching to the spectator stand. The people on the spectator stand were all present. Even Qinggu was sitting there. The three of you are here. Qinggu smiled and greeted them. Celestial Emperor. Lone Moon and I Ching bowed politely. Hey. Xining waved her hand. She could not remember his name. A moment later she said, salted fish? Cough cough. Lone Moon choked. He turned and glared at her. You should at least remember one or two names. What the hell is salted fish? Even if you smacked him with a fish, you can't call him that, can you? Qinggu was stunned. He clearly did not understand what she meant. He did not pursue the matter further. He invited the three of them to sit beside him. Then he turned and gave the person beside him a look. Sect Master Xin. Hui Ling, who had been standing beside him, finally walked out. Lone Moon and I Ching subconsciously frowned. Wasn't she in confinement? Why was she released so soon? It seemed like Qinggu really liked this disciple. Hui Ling changed her attitude and bowed respectfully to Xining. Linger was rude yesterday and offended Sect Master. I hope Sect Master can be magnanimous and forgive Linger's offense. Seeing that Xining was not speaking, Hui Ling looked at Qinggu anxiously. She gritted her teeth and knelt down. Xining did not speak. She turned to Father Niu out of habit. Fellow immortal, you don't have to do this. At this point there was no point in continuing to argue. Lone Moon replied, what's more, this is a small matter. Our sect master did not take it to heart. If she took it to heart, it would not be as simple as pouring a cup of tea on you. It would make you doubt your life. Thank you, Sect Master Xin. Hui Ling stood up. She looked as if she had completed some kind of mission. She turned to Qinggu and stood behind him. Her eyes were full of grievance and grievance. Sect Master Xin is indeed a broad-minded person. Qinggu ignored Hui Ling's grievance and smiled at the few of them. As for Xining, he couldn't quite see through her. She looked like an earth immortal with so little immortal chi that it was almost invisible. She looked so weak that any immortal could crush her to death. But I Ching, who was a young emperor, and Lone Moon, who was an exalted immortal, seemed to respect her very much. They even seemed to regard her as their leader. Even during the days when he was an invincible sect as Ning Zi'an, all the disciples in the sect worshipped her for no reason. At first he thought that she was I Ching's former master. That was why they treated her like that. But later on he was manipulated by his mental demons and entered the demon world. She realized that even the Devil King was obedient to her. That was why he guessed that her identity was not simple. As for whether it was what it seemed on the surface, he even guessed that Lone Moon and I Ching's cultivation had increased so quickly because of her. Someone that even the Demon King was so afraid of, could possibly be related to the divine race. Someone like that could not be offended. Master, the competition is about to begin, I Ching reminded her. Indeed, a large group of disciples had gathered in the square below. In front of the crowd there were 4 huge stone doors. There were complicated arrays on them. They were glowing with white light. They could vaguely see the mountains and rivers inside. "Master, I'm going over," Hui Ling suddenly said. Be careful." Qingge nodded. Hui Ling mounted her sword and flew towards the entrance of the leftmost Earth Immortal group. It looked like she was also going to participate in the competition. No wonder Qingge let her out so quickly. I wonder what happened to that Lu Ming? Qingge conjured a seal and set up an array in front of him. Suddenly, several water mirrors appeared in front of him. They showed the images of the mystic realm. They were the 4 that had appeared at the start of the competition. But it was still empty. They could clearly see the mountains, lakes, snowy mountains and grasslands. Qingge stood up and announced the start of the competition. The array on the huge stone opened up, revealing an entrance. The disciples of the various groups flew inside one after another. The disciples of Invincible sect chose to fly in from the middle, neither too early nor too late. Compared to the people who started looking for array flags the moment they entered, the disciples of Invincible sect were much more passive. They found a dense and inconspicuous patch of grass nearby and set up a few concealment arrays. Then they squatted down in a row. They were very serious, lying low. They did not move. Chapter 172. Lone Moon looked seriously at the water mirror in front of him. The water mirror showed the whole picture of the mystic realm. Because there were special seals on the array flags, the country emperors on the viewing platform could see the positions of the array flags very clearly. In less than half an hour, almost all of the 10 array flags had been found. Only 2 or 3 of the array flags had not been found yet. He looked at the positions of the people from his own sect. Feng Ying had the system. The 10 people from the Earth Immortal group were obviously very successful. In addition, the place they chose was near the entrance. The 10 flags could not all be placed at the entrance. Therefore, most people's first reaction was to search deeper into the mystic realm. Very few people would turn back. For a moment, the door became the safest place. Although they occasionally met 1 or 2 people who turned back, they did not pose much of a threat. Just as they guessed, the people who entered the mystic realm gathered together in groups of countries. But there were only 10 flags. As time passed, there were naturally differences. Even more and more leaders were eliminated. Ground. In the end, even those who cooperated were mostly in groups of 2 or 3. It seemed that these people could only go so far. 10 flags had basically all been found. That the array flags just as everyone was carefully guarding the flags, were about to be waiting for the end of the competition, situation suddenly the Invincible sect, who had been lying low for more than 4 hours, began to move. Were they planning to disperse? Almost without thinking, why did the other 8 people throw away their weapons? Who had obtained an array flag? Why did the other 8 people throw away their weapons? There were only 3 people there. Why 10 did she suddenly turn into a muscular girl just a moment ago? The flags were successfully taken. Why didn't the other people's spells have any effect to find the flags later? And why did they destroy their immortal no matter how deep the other party hid, they crushing the immortal talisman to send the enemy out was one thing. By the time everyone reacted and wanted to unite the door, it was already too late. More importantly, the mystic realm was really threw them out. It was easy to separate, spectators were dumbfounded. But to gather again, it was only difficult for anyone eliminated the people surrounding them as easily as if they were pulling out who were originally focused on Stygian Immortal and Mystic Immortal definitely not shocked to find that the flags of the Earth Immortal group were body cultivators. At first there were actually body cultivators in the Immortal realm. Finally, half of the flags were gathered together, and they were the kind that more and more flags were gathering. Quick, look at the Mystic realm, look at the Golden Immortal. Someone shouted. After careful observation, the crowd turned to realize that apart from the 2 leaders, the others did not seem to be using any spells. In the mystic realm, they were only fighting with the swords in their hands. Except that the number of people they could not help but guess. There were only 5 people on this side. But they were clearly more ferocious than the Earth Immortal. It was normal for sword immortals, especially the weak-looking immortal in the middle. But they were still Earth Immortals. After his transformation, he was actually taller than everyone else. Until the muscles on his body were clearly visible. They no longer had the advantage in numbers. 5 or 6 people flying with a single punch without panting. Even a mystic immortal might not stand a chance against him, much less a golden immortal. The crowd grew more and more curious. Body cultivators. Body cultivators. Where did so many body cultivators come from? And they were all unfamiliar faces. Who knew which country's emperor had chosen them? 6 hours passed in the blink of an eye. The competition was about to end. Out of the 10 array flags of the Earth Immortal group, 9 were already in the hands of Feng Ying's team. They were collecting the last array flag. As for the Golden Immortal group, Yu Hong and her team had fewer people. Moreover, they did not have the system's map prompt. They only managed to collect 3 array flags. But that was not an easy task. As for the Earth Immortal group, perhaps because they only had 1 array flag left, they met a lot of people. Half of the people who had not been eliminated in the Mystic Realm were gathered here. And after almost an hour of fighting, even the girls in the Body Cultivator group were a little tired. They spent a lot of effort to get the last array flag. Junior Sister Chi, this is for you. A female disciple plucked the array flag and handed it to Qingyu. This was the last one. The girls could not help but feel excited. They did not expect things to go so smoothly. They actually managed to secure the top 10 spots in the Earth Immortal group. The finals could be decided by rock paper scissors. Qingyu was also a little excited. She reached out to take the array flag. Suddenly a figure flashed by. She felt that her hand was empty. The next moment the array flag was in the hands of a girl in pink. The newcomer smiled brightly. She looked at the crowd with an innocent tone and said, "Big sisters, you have already collected so many array flags. Why don't you let me have the last one?" Qingyu frowned. She looked warily at the girl in front of her. She did not seem to be a threat at all. None of them had noticed that there was someone else nearby. This person either had a very high cultivation level or had a special Dharma artifact on her. Fellow immortal, this is a competition. Of course the array flag belongs to the strongest. Forgive me for not letting you have it. The girl snorted. How stingy. You already have 9 array flags. Why don't you let me have one? Fellow immortal, you really like to joke. Qingyu laughed coldly. She was angered by the girl's tone. I don't think we know you. Why should we let you have it? My name is Hui Ling. I am Celestial Emperor Qinji's disciple. Do you know each other now? She said proudly. Everyone's faces darkened. Feng Ying stepped forward and said, Don't talk nonsense with her. We are here for the competition, not to curry favor with some celestial emperor. Since she dared to snatch the array flag, let's see if she has the ability to leave. With that said, he summoned his immortal sword and attacked. The other girls did not hesitate any longer. They all rushed forward. Chapter 173. Hui Ling was a little angry. She didn't expect that these people would not give her any face even after she used her master's name. They still wanted to snatch the array flags from her hands. They were really a bunch of people who didn't know what was good for them. They were just as annoying as that sect leader surnamed Shin. You don't want to listen to my kind words. I want to see how capable you are. As she spoke, she flipped her hand and a long red ribbon instantly appeared in her hand. It was actually a supreme-grade celestial artifact. Immortal chi overflowed from it, and there were many traces of array formations engraved on it. With a gentle wave, the red silk instantly wrapped around Feng Ying's sword and he was flung away. Even the immortal sword in his hand was shattered into pieces. Feng Ying. Shocked, Qingyu hurriedly flew over to catch him. Hui Ling harumphed coldly. Her face was full of confidence as she said with a hint of disdain, Humph? How dare you fight me with your cultivation? Before she could finish speaking, she heard the sound of something piercing through the air beside her. She subconsciously turned around and felt something brush past her. The next moment there was a loud bang. The ground beneath her split open in an instant, and a deep crack immediately appeared on it. Hui Ling retreated a few steps and finally saw it. He was surrounded by 8 muscular girls, and the crack just now was caused by one of them with a single punch. Even the sleeve of her Taoist robe was cut in half. Her expression changed and she looked at the crowd with some fear. Why did they suddenly change their appearances? What kind of evil technique are you using? Even the supreme-grade Dharma robe that her master had given her could not block it. If fellow immortal doesn't hand over the array flag, then we can only send you out. Everyone ignored her question and directly rushed forward. Hui Ling panicked a little. She flew up and dodged their fists. She activated the immortal chi in her body and the red ribbon in her hand grew bigger. Just as she was about to step forward, it was as if it had come to life and it wrapped around the crowd. Junior sister Chi, you're not a body cultivator. There's 1,000 lightning formation on that silk. Qingyu stopped in her tracks, but she had already turned to look at the other person with a questioning look on her face. Entangled by the red Disciple silk. 1, Senior sister, what should we do? It's a shame that you've become so ugly. Senior sister, you're still not as weak as before. Instructed us not with a twist of her hand. Female thousands of lightning bolts instantly appeared on the red silk and shot towards the crowd. Seeing that they couldn't fight back, she smiled even more complacently. This is a competition. We only wanted to take one array flag for the glory of the sect. Since you're so rude and unreasonable, then I'll take the rest of the array flags. As soon as she said this, the faces of the people who were entangled with her darkened. In an instant, was this immortal chi exploded from their bodies. With a few crisp tearing sounds, the red silk that was originally tightly bound to her broke into pieces and fell to the ground. On the spectator stand, 3 pairs of suspicious eyes turned to Shining. You said it before. Huh? Did you? The situation in the water mirror had been reversed. Hui Ling, who had been confident of victory, stared in disbelief at the completely destroyed immortal artifact in her hand. How could this be? This was a supreme-grade immortal artifact. Even a golden immortal would not be able to do this, much less an earth immortal. Before she could react, she felt her hand tighten. The person closest to her suddenly picked up the half of the red silk on the ground and pulled hard. Hui Ling did not have time to let go. Her whole body was pulled toward the opposite side. In the next moment, a fist was swinging toward her face. Only then did Hui Ling know that she was afraid. Her face was pale and she panicked. She screamed, "Ah!" However, with a loud bang, the defensive Dharma artifact on her body was activated. The fist stopped less than 3 fingers away from her face, barely blocking the punch. But because of this, cracks appeared in front of her like a spider web. This was a sign that the array formation was about to collapse. The other party's next punch was about to land. This time it was really going to land on her. Hui Ling panicked even more. There was no longer any trace of innocence on her face. There was only extreme fear. As she screamed, she waved her hands wildly, trying to escape. She forgot all her cultivation techniques and immortal arts. But no matter how hard she tried, she could not shake off the other party's hand. No, help. Help me. The disciple did not intend to hurt her. With a twist of his hand, he reached for the array flag on her waist. But Hui Ling's body suddenly emitted a beam of white light that spread outward. That disciple only felt a huge pressure sweeping towards her. Her heart skipped a beat and she was directly sent flying. Even the other disciples who was chewing on a fruit were swept by the white light and turned to look at the water, coughing up blood. What's going on? Lone Moon was also stunned. He stared at the scene in the water mirror. What was that light? Maybe it's some special Dharma artifact? Sun Shu guessed. It was normal for the Celestial Emperor's disciple to have 1 or 2 life-saving Dharma artifacts. Lone Moon frowned. Shit. They brought so many Dharma artifacts. Was this a competition? It was obviously a competition. If he had known, he would have given them more Dharma artifacts last night. The scene in the water mirror changed again. All the Invincible Sect disciples had fallen and seemed to be injured. Coincidentally, the competition ended at this moment. All the participating disciples were teleported out of the mystic realm. Master. I Ching turned to look at Shining. Yes, I saw it. The preliminary round of the competition ended in one morning. The top 10 of each group had been decided. The Emo Shen group and the Mystic Immortal group were evenly matched. Almost every country had 1 or 2 disciples. As for the Earth Immortal and Golden Immortal groups, it was hard to describe. The Golden Immortal group was still alright. 4 of them were from Invincible Sect, almost half of them. That's right. In the last few minutes, Yu Hong and the others managed to snatch another array flag. The Earth Immortal group was even more impressive. Apart from Hui Ling, everyone else was from Invincible Sect. It was a massacre. When the name list came out, the country emperors finally realized that those body cultivators were from Invincible Sect. Invincible Sect was indeed a perverted sect. Even their disciples were so perverted. Lone Moon expressed his regret. Sai, 2 of us still failed to make it. The country emperors? He had only brought 15 people in total. 13 of them had already made it. What more could he want? Convex. Not long after the preliminary round ended, the finals began. This was no different from the competition in the lower realm. It was a 2-on-1 battle. Chen Gu gave some instructions to the Immortal Palace beside him and kept the water mirror in front of him. In less than a minute, the 4 Mystic Realm stone doors below the spectator stand disappeared. 4 wide platforms appeared, each of them lit up with an isolation array formation. The finals were also carried out by the 4 groups at the same time. Compared to the preliminary round, the finals were much simpler. At most, 2 battles were needed to determine the top 3. Lone Moon had been watching the Earth Immortal group. The more he watched, the darker his expression became. This was because Hui Ling seemed to have become a different person compared to the panic she had when she snatched the array flags in the Mystic Realm. After 2 battles, all the body cultivators in the sect were defeated by her at the last moment. He had confidence in the disciples of the sect. Even Golden Immortals might not be their match, much less Earth Immortals. But things were just so amazing. Hui Ling was an Earth Immortal. Although it was obvious that she was struggling at the start, she could always turn the tables at the last moment and suppress the body cultivators. And she won all the way to the end. It was as if their performance in the mystic realm was just an illusion. She actually has such strength. Was she deliberately hiding her strength before? Because the opponent is not her. I Ching suddenly said. What? What did he mean? Chapter 174. Lone Moon was about to ask for more details, but the country emperors had already stood up to congratulate him. As expected of the sovereign emperor's disciple, his cultivation is indeed extraordinary. It's true that a great teacher produces a great disciple. His Majesty really has a good eye for talent. No wonder he brought her up to the upper realm himself. That's right, Emperor. Why can't we find a disciple with such aptitude? Emperors, you're too kind. Qin Gu smiled in response. My disciple is just a little more diligent. He was a little puzzled. Given Hui Ling's cultivation, she shouldn't be able to fight against a physical cultivator. Why did she? But she was his disciple after all, so he didn't think too much about it. The competition for the other groups had also ended. The country emperors boasted for a while before Qin Gu announced the end of the competition. With a wave of his hand, the 4 platforms below merged into one and slowly rose up. Above them stood the top 3 winners of each group. Siyu was first in the Golden Immortal group. However, perhaps because she understood the situation in the Earth Immortal group, there was no joy on her face. Especially the 2 disciples who lost to Hui Ling, they kept their heads down throughout the match. Lone Moon couldn't help but feel some anger rising in his heart. He found the green tea bitch to be even more of an eyesore. I Ching was especially sensitive to immortal qi. The people on the stage could not tell, but he could. If he said that Hui Ling's battle was problematic, then there must be. He just didn't know what the problem was. After praising them, Qin Gu then began to hand out the rewards. Most of them were immortal artifacts, immortal pills and the likes. The top 10 of each group received one. After all, he was a sovereign emperor. He did not even blink when he took out dozens of magic tools at once. As for the champion of each group, he or she would be able to choose a supreme-grade immortal artifact that suited him or her. It was equivalent to custom-made. Lone Moon was still thinking about Hui Ling's competition. He had no interest in such an award ceremony. Immortal artifacts and whatnot were all custom-made from Sun Shu. Master. When it was Hui Ling's turn, she did not say what she wanted. Instead, she took a step forward and asked, "Can I not take the immortal artifact?" Qin Gu chuckled. He seemed to be used to his disciple's carefree personality as he said in a doting manner, "Oh? I don't want an immortal artifact." His disciple naturally did not lack such an immortal artifact. Disciple knows that my cultivation is shallow, but I am wholeheartedly pursuing the Tao. Participating in the tournament this time was just to test his limits and temper himself a little. I didn't expect. Hui Ling glanced at unrivaled enemy with a hint of provocation in her eyes. I didn't expect to win the championship by accident. So, disciple doesn't ask for anything else. I just want to accumulate more battle experience. Qin Gu nodded. What do you want then? Disciple wants? Her tone changed and she suddenly looked at Shening, who was sitting on the spectator stand. She said loudly, "Disciple wants to request for a battle with the invincible sect master." What? As soon as these words came out, the whole place fell silent. The others were shocked, but the people of Invincible Sect were, ha! A sudden burst of laughter rang out. Before the people from Invincible Sect could react, Sun Shu was already pounding the table and laughing maniacally. He was laughing so hard that he was almost lying flat on the table. Everyone's attention was drawn to him. I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. Sun Shu tried to hold it in for a long time before he looked at Qin Gu and said, "Celestial Emperor, your disciple is really... Forgive him for not being able to hold it in. It was too funny." Lone Moon and I Ching were stunned too. They had lived for so many years, but they had never seen such a suicidal request before. She actually wanted to fight Shening? Who gave her the courage? Was it Liang Jingru? Instantly, they looked at Hui Ling with a complicated expression. Could this person be mentally retarded? Actually, if they thought about it carefully, they could understand why she would make such a request. She must have lost face in the main hall yesterday and wanted to take advantage of winning the tournament to regain it. She thought that since she could win even a body cultivator, Shening, who was also an Earth Immortal, could do the same. Lone Moon really felt that she was a little naive. Qin Gu naturally knew what his disciple was planning. His face darkened and he scolded, "Little Ling, don't be rude. Sect Master Shin is the sect master of a sect. By right she should be your elder. How can she fight with a junior like you?" "Master, doesn't the immortal realm respect power? Why can't she fight with a junior just because she's the sect master?" Hui Ling was not convinced. Not only did she not take back her words, she even said righteously, "What's more, it's just a battle. Just take it as the sect master giving me some pointers. Unless, she's afraid of losing." "How dare you?" Qin Ji's voice was low. "Master." Hui Ling looked aggrieved. Why did he keep helping that Shining? Chingu felt a headache coming on. He wanted to be on good terms with Invincible Sect, but Little Ling's personality had always been jumpy. It was not strange for her to say something like that. He felt a little awkward. But in his heart he really wanted to see Xin Ying's strength. It's my disciple's fault. I hope you can forgive her. Celestial Emperor, you're too serious. Loman's eyes flashed. Your disciple is right. It's normal for cultivators to fight with each other. What's more, she won the championship this time. Celestial Emperor should be happy that she's so motivated. But Chingu could not figure out what he meant. She's a junior after all. Celestial Emperor is right. Lone Moon nodded. It would be bad if she gets hurt. I'm not afraid. Hui Ling suddenly shouted. Please teach me Sect Master Shen. No matter what happens to me, Hui Ling will not complain. Since that's the case, all right. Lone Moon sighed, but his eyes narrowed into slits. He turned to Shining and said, Go, Shining. There's no need to save me face. Beat her. Shining, why did she feel that he was even more excited than she was? Old fox. Sun Shu cursed softly and rolled his eyes. Shining had already planned to fight from the start, but she still went around in circles and pretended that she had no choice. Sect Master Shen, please? Hui Ling turned and walked toward the platform behind her, her face full of confidence. Now that things had come to this, Chingu could not say anything more. He turned back and sat down. All the emperors around them looked excited. They already had a grudge against I Ching. Now that someone was standing up for them, and it was the Celestial Emperor's disciple, they were naturally happy to watch the show. It was their fault for choosing such a sect master. Everyone looked like they were waiting to see Invincible Sect make a fool of themselves. Apart from Sun Shu and the people of Invincible Sect, they all had the same expression. They all looked like they were looking at a retard. Shining, go. Lone Moon hurried her and snatched the fruit from her hand. Alright, stop eating. It's time to go. Shining then stood up and walked slowly toward the center of the arena. Sigh, so troublesome. She walked leisurely and after a while she walked to the center of the field. The defensive array formation around her lit up again, isolating everyone outside. Hui Ling looked at the lazy person opposite her and laughed coldly. She said confidently, Sect Master Shen, please forgive me if I offend you later. Don't worry, I know my limits. I won't hurt you too badly. She deliberately emphasized the last three words, as if she could see the other party kneeling down and begging for mercy. Shining tilted her head. She still looked lazy, but her gaze was fixed on Hui Ling's neck. Are you sure you can win? Of course. She smiled even more proudly. Didn't all the body cultivators under your sect lose to me? Oh. She paused. Suddenly her figure flashed. Is it because of this? Before Hui Ling could react, she felt a chill on her neck. In the next moment, a familiar white necklace was already in the other party's hand. She did not even know how it happened. She subconsciously touched her chest. Indeed, it was gone. You. Her face instantly turned pale, and a huge panic surged from the bottom of her heart. That was her most important trump card. What? Why did she know about it? Give it back to me. She turned around and pounced at him, wanting to take it back. Wake you. A voice came from the necklace. Xin Ying's hand tightened. She heard a cracking sound. No. Hui Ling cried out. It was too late. The necklace was crushed into pieces. It's gone now, Shining said word by word. Hui Ling was stunned. She stared at her palm in disbelief. She looked up at Shining, her eyes burning. I'll kill you. She seemed to have lost her mind. She summoned several immortal swords and rushed toward Shining without a care in the world. Shining did not move. Seeing that the sword in Hui Ling's hand was about to stab her, she took a step to the side and stuck out a leg. There was a loud thud. The person who had been so aggressive just a moment ago stumbled and fell to the ground. She even landed face first, causing a cloud of dust to rise. One look and one could tell that she was in pain. I say, sister. Shining squatted down and patted Hui Ling's shoulder. She said earnestly, it's not right to cheat. Hui Ling was shocked. Her face turned green. A horrifying thought flashed through her mind. She knew it. How could this be? Even Master could not tell. That was clearly, you're talking nonsense. She subconsciously wanted to get up, but she found that the hand on her body was so heavy that she could not get up no matter how hard she tried. How could this be? She could only turn to look at Shining. She was instantly frightened by the look in Shinying's eyes. Suddenly, it was as if something terrible was covering the sky and covering the earth. She could not even breathe. The low voice sounded like it came from hell. You'll be beaten if you cheat. On the spectator's stand. Xining, what are you doing? Lone Moon asked. Because there was an array outside, the people outside could not hear what was going on inside at all. Beat her up. Why were they still chatting? There's something wrong with that necklace. I Ching directly sent a voice transmission. What? During the Earth Immortal competition just now, the necklace would emit a special immortal chi at the end to help her defeat her opponent. That immortal chi did not belong to her. Lone Moon was stunned. Shit. That little bitch really cheated. No wonder Shin Ying crushed her opponent's necklace the moment she got off the stage. So it was because of this. But who did that immortal chi belong to? He subconsciously suspected Qinggu, but after thinking about it carefully, he felt that it was impossible. As in Celestial Emperor, he would not side with his own disciple in front of everyone. There was also no need. As in Celestial Emperor, even if his disciple lost, who would dare to say a word to him? Moreover, during the battle just now, he had been sitting here the entire time. There was no chance at all to use immortal spells to help at all. From the looks of it, apart from I Ching who had always been sensitive to auras and Xining that cheat, no one seemed to have noticed anything wrong. Who could do such a thing under the eyes of all the country emperors and celestial emperors? And what was that necklace? Just as he was thinking, the ground suddenly shook. A white light fell from the sky directly towards the platform below, bringing with it a huge amount of immortal chi and sword chi. Little Ling. Qinggu was shocked. Master. I Ching also stood up. Two figures rushed onto the platform at the same time. The moment that white light fell, they picked up the person in the arena and flew out. In the next moment there was a loud bang. The entire platform was instantly smashed into pieces. Even the surrounding array was instantly smashed into pieces. Little Ling, are you alright? Qinggu looked at Hui Ling, who was in his arms, with some trepidation. If he had not arrived in time, he was afraid. Master? Hui Ling's face was pale. Subconsciously, she looked in Xin Ying's direction, then immediately looked away. Trembling, she shrunk further into Qin Ji's arms. She was not afraid of the white light that suddenly fell, but of Sect Master Xin just now. Her heart could not help but clench. It must be an illusion. How could that Earth Immortal have such a terrifying aura? Master, are you all right? I Ching asked anxiously. Xining, who was being dragged over air, what could happen to her? Lone Moon rolled his eyes. Worry for nothing. I Ching was stunned. Then he reacted. When he saw Qinggu rushing in to save Hui Ling, he subconsciously thought that Master was also inside and went in without thinking. He did not even think about whether Hui Ling needed his help at all. Thank you. Xining could not help but comfort the slightly dispirited chef. She pointed to the flying dust in front of them and said, At least you didn't have to breathe in 2 mouthfuls of dust. I Ching. He was not comforted at all. What was going on? Ha ha ha. Suddenly, a male voice came from within the white light. Following a gust of wind, a figure dressed in blue appeared in mid-air. His hair was tied up in a bun and his red lips were slightly pursed, looking like he was smiling. He held a jade-bone fan in his hand. He did not open it but instead spun it gently in his hand. Floating in the air, he looked down at the person sitting on the main seat with contempt. Qinggu, why didn't you inform me of your mystic spirits and spirits meeting? I could have come and joined in the fun. Qinggu frowned immediately. Clenching his fists, he looked at the person in the air and called out, Chu Xian. Hearing this name, everyone was shocked. They all looked up at the person in the air. Who? Only the people from Invincible Sect looked confused. Celestial Emperor Chu Xian of the Hechuan continent. He turned to look at Qinggu and immediately switched to a voice transmission. Softly. He was also the one who fought against Emperor Qinggu 10,000 years ago. Most importantly, Emperor Qinggu lost. Only then did Lone Moon understand. He recalled that Qinggu, who looked like a child, had said that a demonic seed had been planted in him when he was seriously injured. So the person who injured him was this person. This person was obviously here to cause trouble. I see that the immortals of Fengcang are quite diligent in their cultivation. Chu Xian scanned the crowd. Why do you still have time for the mystic spirits and spirits meeting? Why don't you spar with me from Hechuan? Let's see if the immortals of Fengcang are really stronger than those from other continents. Celestial Emperor Chu Xian. Qinggu stepped forward and said, The mystic spirits and spirits meeting is just an ordinary spar for immortals of Fengcang. We have no intention of competing with other continents. An ordinary spar? Chu Xian laughed mirthlessly and scanned the few people on the spectator stand. I don't think these people are ordinary immortals from Fengtsang. Let me guess, are they from Yi Shui or Changnua continent? Qinggu did not reply. The other continents had indeed sent people over, but they were all celestial emperors whom he was familiar with. They had only sent people to congratulate him on his coming out of seclusion. Why the other continents can come, but the Hechuan can't? Chu Xian snorted and changed the topic. Or, they are just like you, afraid of losing to the Hechuan. Qin Ji's expression darkened. The celestial emperor could not hold it in any longer. He shouted angrily, nonsense. So what if you are the emperor of Hechuan? You think Fengtsang is afraid of you? Before he could finish speaking, Chu Xian's immortal aura swept over him. The celestial emperor who had just spoken fell to his knees. Chu Xian. Qinggu released his immortal qi to protect the celestial emperor. He said angrily, I said, the matter regarding celestial emperor Lan Hua has nothing to do with me. It's been so long. Why do you have to make things difficult for me and vent your anger on others? Shut up. Chu Xian exploded like a firecracker. You have no right to mention his name. His eyes were filled with anger. He looked like he was going to rush out and stab Qinggu a few times. Lan Hua. Oh, looks like it has something to do with Boss Lan? Lone Moon narrowed his eyes. I don't want to talk about these past matters with you today. Chu Xian took a few deep breaths to suppress his anger. Haven't you already chosen the top 3? How about this? I'll also send out 3 people from each cultivation level to compete with you? Qinggu frowned. A moment later he replied, since Celestial Emperor Chu Xian is so interested, Fengtsang will accompany you to the end. Alright. Let's meet at the Shumi realm tomorrow afternoon. With that he waved his hand. A strong wind blew and he disappeared into thin air. Qinggu sighed and turned to face the crowd. In a low voice he said, everyone has seen it. It looks like we'll have to keep you and your disciples in heavens beyond heaven for a while longer. The celestial emperors immediately expressed their willingness to fight for the Fengtsang continent. Shining and the other 2 were excited. They were so excited that they wanted to go back and hear what Boss Lan and Chu Xian had to say. Chapter 175. After returning to the floating peak where they were resting, Lone Moon pulled Shining and I Ching into the house. His expression was more serious than ever. About that green. Huiling, what do you think? Shining faltered. What do you think? Don't you think it's strange? Lone Moon said in a low voice. She's Qin Ji's disciple and she came from the lower realm. Qin Ji's pampering of her is obviously different from ordinary disciples. Who would pamper a disciple that way? You mean? Shining blinked and said seriously, there's something going on between the 2 of them. Lone Moon, I Ching, although his words were a little rough, but that was what he meant. Don't you think her setting is a little familiar? Lone Moon said anxiously. This is obviously the setting of the original female lead, right? Now that he said it, it did look a little similar. Isn't Xian Tong still in the sect? I Ching frowned. Yes, that's why I think it's strange. Lone Moon explained in a low voice. Xian Tong should be the female lead. This Huiling didn't even appear in the original novel. And I've heard that this person was brought back to the heavens beyond heaven by Qinggu 4 years ago. Shining also brought Xian Tong back at that time. And this Huiling's personality is different from the original female lead. Whether it's taking in a disciple or Qin Ji's attitude towards her, it's exactly the same as in the book. It's exactly the same as in the book. It's like, the female lead has changed. This made him feel that because of their interference, the plot had gone wrong and something was automatically correcting it. Because the female lead disappeared, there was a change in the female lead? You mean? Huiling replaced Xian Tong's identity? I Ching said. But Xian Tong was formed by a mental demon. Qinggu couldn't possibly not recognize his own clone, right? I mean, I'm not saying that Qinggu recognized the wrong person. It's possible that she's just replacing Xian Tong's character in that novel. The character who was possessed by Conan was unlucky. The more Lone Moon thought about it, the more likely it seemed. He nudged the person beside him. What do you think? Say something. I think. Shining still had that lazy look on her face. But, salted fish, since you didn't have the chance to fall for Shorty, it's normal for you to fall for someone else. They couldn't let him stay single forever. Even if he found a prostitute, it's not strange. Don't be prejudiced against her. You just wanted to call me a little b*tch, right? Who's the biased one here? Lone Moon frowned. You mean to say that there was no plot error correction at all? Could it be that he was thinking too much? Yes. Shining nodded. After some thought, she added, since the lower realm. She had never stopped. I Ching, Lone Moon, F***CK? What do you mean? Can't you say it all in one breath? Don't pant. It's Chef. She pointed at I Ching beside her. The two of them were dumbfounded. A moment later, Lone Moon thought of something. You mean to say, from him onwards the plot started to correct itself? Yes. They thought about it carefully. The only two characters who appeared in the Azure world were I Ching and Bai Zhe. I Ching was the last sword immortal to appear in the original novel. When he was in the lower realm, he was an itinerant cultivator. It must have been difficult for him to ascend. But because of Shining, he had a few epiphanies and his cultivation level increased very quickly. He was even on the verge of ascending. But at that time the Azure world was still under the control of the Qingtong Immortal Abode. If he wanted to ascend, there would have been a huge battle with them in the original novel. It would have been a long process. As for Bai Zhe, previously Bitao said that because he sensed traces of the divine race in the Azure world, he delayed the destruction of the world. This divine race must have been Bai Zhe. Bai Zhe was sent back to the divine world by Shining. That was why they started to destroy the world. In that case, according to the setting that was not mentioned in the book, it was very likely that Bai Zhe and I Ching worked together to destroy the Qingtong Immortal Abode's plot and then ascended to the upper realm. In other words, the plot was brought forward from the beginning. After ascending, I Ching would be Xin Ying's disciple. Before he finished his apprenticeship, he would not accept other disciples. In that case, the relationship between him and the male lead, Ningxian, would be severed. A male lead without ability could not be called a male lead. But they still met Ningxian. Not only did they get rid of the sword chi in his body, but they also helped him get rid of his mental demons, allowing him to become the celestial emperor he once was. Naturally, there was no need for him to be I Ching's disciple anymore. All of this seemed like a coincidence, but if one thought about it carefully, it did seem like they had been correcting the plot. Because of his epiphanies, I Ching ascended earlier than the plot. That was why the male lead also appeared earlier. Because I Ching did not accept the male lead as his disciple, the male lead regained his cultivation level and became a peak celestial emperor. Because Shen Ying took away the original female lead, Hui Ling came out and became the new female lead. Everything was clearly different from the plot, but after going around in circles, it seemed like they were back in the plot. It was as if there was a pair of invisible hands silently manipulating everything without anyone noticing. It was like patching up a piece. Whenever a piece was missing, another piece would be added. It was as if they were trying to complete the plot. Lone Moon's heart sank. He looked at Shen Ying beside him and asked, "When exactly did you realize this?" He was clearly the most familiar with the plot, but he did not notice it at all. Shen Ying thought about it and said, "When the gate to the demon realm closed." That gate, wasn't it closed by the demons? Lone Moon was shocked. He had always thought that the people inside were afraid of being beaten up. That was why they decided to go all out and block the gate. Now that he thought about it, the demon realm was the last instance for the male lead and the female lead. Naturally, they could not start at the beginning. So, it was also because of the plot that the gate was closed? Was the plot really that powerful? Could it be that this is really just the world of a novel? Or was this world following the plot of that novel? Then who was the person manipulating the plot? Was it the author? The more Lone Moon thought about it, the more confused he became. He decided not to think about it anymore. Who cares? Anyway, this had nothing to do with them anymore. He could not be bothered to see the male lead and the female lead quarreling everywhere. It was fine as long as they did not provoke them. But, has Hui Ling really become the new female lead? If the female lead had really been replaced, it would be a good thing for them. After all, Xian Tong was now a member of Invincible Sect. Shen Ying thought about it and suddenly asked, "Father Niu, what's the next plot in that novel?" "What next plot?" Lone Moon paused. Then he understood. That's right. If he wanted to know whether Hui Ling was the substitute female lead, he just had to see if she was following the plot. The first thing that happened to the female lead after she became his disciple was, someone took her away? He vaguely remembered a scene where the male lead saved the damsel in distress. Who took her away? I forgot. It happened so long ago. I can't remember it clearly. I think it was the male lead's nemesis or something. Chu Xian. I Ching suddenly spoke. Lone Moon paused. Holy shit, that was really possible. That meant that the next plot would start tomorrow? Little Missy, we're back. Just as she was thinking about it, Radish suddenly kicked open the door and pounced towards Shen Ying like a human-shaped cannonball. Just as it was about to jump into Xin Ying's arms, Yi Qing, who was beside her, reacted quickly. He grabbed Radish's collar, lifted it up and threw it away. "Get lost, little bastard." Radish turned and glared at him, but did not dare to resist. It could only look at Xin Ying pitifully. "Little missy. Radish misses you so much." Chapter 176. Where did you go? Lone Moon glanced at Radish. It was rare to see it in human form. "We went to the nearby Immortal Palace for a walk." Before Radish could reply, Lan Hua, who followed closely behind, said, "You came back quite early today. You finished the competition so quickly?" Lone Moon glanced at the two of them. They had been in the heavens beyond heaven for a few days. At first, Lan Hua was still a little wary. Later, when he realized that no one could tell that he was a demon, he completely let himself go. Taking advantage of the time when all the disciples were out competing, the two children who stayed behind quickly formed an alliance. They began to wander around aimlessly, and developed some revolutionary friendships as a result. "Oh yes, little missy." Radish thought of something and mysteriously took out a storage bag. It handed it over with a proud look. "I brought a lot of gifts for you. Everyone." "Did you freaking go on a vacation?" Xin Ying obviously did not trust this vegetable and did not take it. Lone Moon directly intercepted it. "What's this? Meat?" Radish looked proud. "I caught it for a long time." Lone Moon subconsciously opened it. "What meat?" Before he could finish, he heard a swoosh. A gust of wind blew past him and something black and white hit his face. "Lone Moon, Yi Qing, what the hell is this meat? This is obviously an immortal crane, right? And it's the kind that freaking delivers letters. Is that a communication talisman on its claw?" Lone Moon felt his heart skip a beat. He had a bad feeling about this. He immediately stopped the immortal crane that was hitting his face with its wings. He opened the storage bag again and took out one fat and big immortal crane after another. "Did you freaking catch all the immortal cranes in the heavens beyond heaven?" Lone Moon took a deep breath and suppressed the urge to stew a certain someone. He could already vaguely see the immortals who were sending messages looking for their own immortal cranes. "This is the gift you brought." He gritted his teeth. Yes. Radish did not feel guilty at all for grabbing someone else's communication tool. It said proudly, "I specially picked the fat ones. Little missy, look, this one is even fatter than Radish. It must be delicious." As he spoke, he grabbed a red-crowned crane that was struggling desperately. The corner of Lone Moon's mouth twitched. He turned to glare at his accomplice. Lan Hua immediately raised both his hands. "It's not my fault. He was the one who wanted to arrest him. He couldn't stop him anyway. What the F***ck?" Lone Moon felt as if something had snapped in his head. He could not hold it in anymore. He picked up Radish and strode out. She shoved him into the huge flower pot in the courtyard. "What do you want? Let me go." Before Radish could react, Lone Moon had already covered its head with mud. It struggled with all its might. Just in case he came with Feng Ying. The other disciples who came to watch the competition did not follow them. Apart from the 5 participants, the others stayed in the Immortal Palace to rest, mainly to keep a close eye on Radish. They had obviously arrived early. There was no sign of Chu Xian. But in the middle of the palace, above the largest pile of rubble, there was a large platform floating in the air. One look and they could tell that this was the competition arena that had been prepared. Qin Gu led the group to a platform on the right. His expression was much more serious than before. Hui Ling followed beside him. Her expression did not look very good. She no longer looked as lively and arrogant as before. Anyway, from time to time, a hint of panic flashed across her face, and she did not look in Xin Ying's direction again. Of course, Lone Moon knew why she was like this. It was because Xin Ying had destroyed her golden finger. What's more, she was the champion of the Earth Immortal group this time. This was not a friendly competition between people from the same continent. The other party would not give face to Qin Gu. Naturally, they would not go easy on her. He instantly felt refreshed. Sure enough, he had to pay for what he had done. Hui Ling's expression became more and more anxious as the time of the competition drew closer. She finally tugged at Qinji's sleeve and said softly, "Master, I don't feel well." "Ling, what's wrong?" Qinji's face was full of worry. "Were you injured in the mystic realm yesterday?" "No, Master, I just want to she spoke very softly so the people around her did not notice, except for Lone Moon who had been paying attention to her movements. His eyes instantly lit up, and before the other party could request to withdraw from the competition, he immediately spoke up with a radiant smile on his face. Celestial Emperor, is your disciple unwell? I just happen to have primordial rejuvenation pills, spirit concentration dew and exorcism talismans. No matter what kind of illness you have, they will be effective immediately. Celestial Emperor, do you need them? Huiling, Xingu. Chapter 177. No, there's no need. Xingu paused, puzzled by Lone Moon's sudden kindness. He smiled politely and said, Exalted immortal Lone Moon, you must be joking. Little Ling's cultivation level is low, but she is already an immortal. She won't get sick easily. I'm sure she's just a little nervous because it's her first time competing with immortals from other continents. He turned to look at Huiling and gave her a reassuring look. Huiling did not react. Instead, her face turned even paler and her eyes were filled with panic. She looked like she wanted to say something but was hesitant. This was the first time Xingu had seen her so uneasy. He couldn't help but add, Ling, just treat this as a normal competition. Just perform at your usual level. I have confidence in you, so don't feel too pressured. Yes, master. Her face turned even paler. She could not bring herself to withdraw. Your Majesty is right, Lone Moon said with a smile. Lone Moon's eyes narrowed into slits as he smiled. He glanced at Huiling, then turned to his disciple and said, Did you hear that? Just perform at your usual level. I have confidence in you too. The 5 disciples behind him answered in unison, Yes, Elder. His voice was loud and clear, instantly suppressing the hesitation in Huiling's voice. Huiling's face turned even paler. Even Xingu frowned. Was he imagining things? Why did his words sound so sarcastic? Just as he was about to ask for more details, another beam of white light appeared. The people from the Hechuan continent had arrived. Because there was a wide platform between them, they could see clearly this time. Under the white light, a huge transportation array lit up. In a short while, more than 10 figures appeared. Leading them was Chu Xian. He glanced at them and laughed coldly. Xingu, I thought you would be like the previous few times and not dare to come. You're quite early this time. Xingu ignored his provocation. He maintained his gentlemanly demeanor and said in a low voice, Emperor Chu Xian invited me in the name of Hechuan. How can I not come? Oh, you seem very confident. Chu Xian's face was full of disgust. He did not seem to want to talk to him anymore. He said directly, In that case, let me see how powerful Feng Tsang is. With that, he waved his hand and 3 people flew out from behind him and landed on the platform in front of him. All 3 of them were Stygian immortals. It's too troublesome to fight one by one. It's better to fight them all at the same level together, Kun Xian said. Xingu had no objections. He nodded at the top 3 Stygian immortals, and the 3 of them flew to the center of the platform. Lone Moon looked down at the 6 people who were already fighting. He thought about it carefully and guessed why the other party wanted 3 people to fight together. Although the 3 Stygian immortals from Hechuan didn't seem to be as strong as the 3 Stygian immortals on this side. However, it was obvious that they had been working together for a long time, and the 3 Stygian immortals here were all chosen from various countries. They had probably never fought together before, so their group strength was naturally much weaker. As expected, in just a short while, the 3 Stygian immortals were defeated one by one. It could be said to be a crushing defeat. All 3 of them were kicked off the stage. At that moment, all the country emperors and Qinji's expressions changed. It was the same for the Mystic Immortal group. This time it ended even faster. The Stygian immortals managed to hold on for an hour, but the 3 Mystic Immortals were defeated in less than 15 minutes. Chu Xian looked even more pleased with himself. He seemed to have expected such a result. He looked like he was waiting to humiliate Xingu. Until the Golden Immortal group went up. In terms of teamwork, the few people from Invincible Sect who had been cultivating together since they started were no worse than anyone else. The strongest of the 3, Siyu, did not even have to transform. She relied on Yu Hong and another disciple to force the 3 Stygian immortals into a corner. In less than 10 minutes, the 3 Stygian immortals were kicked off the stage. Compared to the immortals who had been defeated in the previous 2 rounds, they looked even more pathetic. Body cultivators. Chu Xian did not seem to have expected such an outcome. He had been so sure that he would win, but now he had lost the upper hand. The people from Hechuan continent could not react in time. They had to be King kidding them. Where did these body cultivators come from? And they were female immortals. What was wrong with them? The people from Fengtsang, who were already shocked, did not feel anything at all. They wanted to give them a thumbs up. They were not stupid. From the results of the Stygian immortal group, they could guess what the other party was planning. They just did not refute it at the start. Later on, they could not bring themselves to say that they wanted to fight one-on-one. Fortunately, they had the Invincible Sects group, no group cultivators. If they won the next round, they would be able to win 2 out of 4 rounds. Finally, it was time for the Earth Immortal group. Master, I don't want. Hui Ling, who had been suppressing her emotions, was panicking now. She grabbed Qinji's hand. Little Ling, Qingu patted her hand. His heart ached for her. He wanted to agree to not let her fight, but he was an Celestial Emperor after all. It would not be right for him to not let his disciple win. His voice softened. Just do your best. Trust me. Nothing will go wrong. Hui Ling had never teamed up with anyone before. It was normal for her to be nervous. But judging from the situation in the previous round, this round should be no problem. He subconsciously turned to look in the direction of Invincible Sect. He wanted to say a few words of encouragement. But he realized that Lone Moon was holding the 2 Earth Immortal disciples aside, instructing them about something. He even set up an isolation array. He thought that they might be discussing how to fight the enemy at the last minute, so he did not pay much attention to them. Lone Moon only opened the isolation array when the 3 opponents were already on the stage. He reminded them again, remember what I said. Yes, Elder. The 2 disciples bowed and flew towards the dueling platform. Seeing this, Hui Ling gritted her teeth and flew up. The moment she stood still, Hui Ling took out her Dharma artifact. It was a red folding fan. With a gentle wave, a dazzling fire shot up into the sky and burned the path in front of them. The Imperial Fire Fan was another supreme-grade immortal artifact. Lone Moon's eyes darkened. She was indeed the disciple of an Celestial Emperor. How generous. The 3 opponents did not expect that the other party would have such a powerful immortal artifact. They hurriedly retreated to avoid it. But they were still caught in the fire. One of them even had a corner of his robe burnt. The Imperial Fire Fan was an immortal artifact. The fire it summoned was not ordinary fire. Ordinary water elemental sorcery could not extinguish it. The expressions of the 3 opponents became even more serious. They had no choice but to retreat. Seeing this, Hui Ling's flustered emotions calmed down in an instant. Her confidence was boosted. She raised her other hand and with a ding sound she took out another immortal artifact. It was a golden bracelet. The moment it flew out, it split into tens of thousands of bracelets. All of them flew toward the opponents. The opponents, who were already dodging the deviant fire, found it harder and harder to avoid the attacks. Hui Ling laughed softly. She had misunderstood the situation earlier. Although the other party was sent by Celestial Emperor Chu Xian, he was just an ordinary cultivator. He was not like the body cultivators of Invincible Sect. Even without that person's help, the other party might not be her match. Thinking of this, Hui Ling hated Sect Master Shen even more. If not for her, she would not have lost the necklace. She turned and glared at the other 2 people who had just entered the arena. The 2 of them were on the other side, waving their immortal swords and trying their best to dodge the attacks of the 3 cultivators. Hui Ling could not help but laugh coldly. So what if they were body cultivators? They came from a small sect. No matter how strong they were, how could they compare to the immortals of the heavens beyond heaven? She would be able to handle the last match by herself. In an instant, her attacks became more and more violent. The entire arena was filled with red deviant fire. Even the 2 people from Invincible Sect had no choice but to stand in the furthest corner. The 3 opponents no longer had a place to stand. They could only fly in the air. They also had to defend against the densely packed golden metal rings. Chapter 178. In less than 5 minutes, the other party was about to be forced off the stage. Hui Ling turned her hand and changed her hand seal. Thousands of steel rings gathered in the air and formed a rope that flew towards the other party. Hui Ling heaved a sigh of relief and said confidently, "It's over." That's right. Just as she finished speaking, an unfamiliar male voice rang out from behind her. In the next moment, a sharp sword came slashing towards her. Her heart tightened, but it was too late for her to defend herself. A cold sword was already swinging towards her face. It's really over. Ah! She screamed, but the sword did not hit her. At the critical moment, the defensive array on her Dharma robe was activated and blocked the attack. The attacking immortal took a step back. Hui Ling retreated several steps before she could see that it was one of the three enemies. She did not even know when the other party had sneaked up on her. How was this possible? Hui Ling did not have much battle experience. She panicked when the other party got close to her. She subconsciously held onto her fire-subduing fan and waved it behind her. In an instant, the deviant fire ignited and burned the only safe piece of ground on the flat ground. The other party was stunned for a moment. Then he smiled mockingly. Idiot. He conjured a seal and set up a defensive barrier to isolate the deviant fire. He was just worrying about how to force her into the deviant fire, but she had trapped herself inside. He immediately shouted, "Activate the array." As soon as he finished speaking, the two people who were still in the air landed on the ground. His hand seal changed. He squatted down and slapped the ground with his palm. The ground, which was originally full of deviant fire, glowed brightly. Rays of light from the array flashed. The pattern of the array appeared on the platform in an instant. The medium that connected the array was the golden iron ring that Hui Ling had just summoned but was knocked down by the three of them. So the three of them had been setting up the array from the beginning. And this array was 5 elements reversal array. Someone cried out in alarm. In the next moment, all the arrays on the stage lit up. The deviant fire that had been burning earlier was extinguished in an instant. The entire platform was instantly sealed in ice. Sharp ice blades drilled out of the array and flew towards Hui Ling. Ah! Hui Ling screamed in pain. Just as she was about to use her fire-subduing fan to summon a mystical flame to burn off the ice, she felt a weight on her hand. Lowering his head, he realized that his entire hand was covered in a thick layer of ice. He couldn't even circulate his immortal energy through it, let alone use the fire-subduing fan. The 5 elements reversal array could reverse all the spells of the 5 elements within the array. The fire-subduing fan could summon the deviant flame, and the spell that appeared in the array was the 10,000-year frost. All fire elements would be frozen. Hui Ling was in a complete panic. She wanted to rush out, but she was surrounded by ice and it was getting closer and closer to her. It was as if it was going to freeze her as well. There was nowhere to run. She subconsciously looked at the two people who had also been forced into a corner by the deviant fire and happened to be outside the array. The duo from Invincible Sect paused for a moment, and at the same time, they recalled a certain elder's instructions before they went on stage. Thus, the disciple took a step forward, opened his arms, and fell to the ground in a very simple and clear manner. At the same time, he said in a clear and serious tone, I fell. Junior sister. The second disciple called out anxiously. Suddenly, he also fell to the ground as if he had seen a ghost. I fell too. Xining, I Ching, Qinggu, all the emperors. At that moment, several pairs of eyes turned to look at Lone Moon. Lone Moon, damn it, I didn't teach you to put on such a fake act. Degree, a strange silence fell over the crowd. The 3 people who were fighting were the first to react. They immediately lost interest in the other 2. One of them waved his hand and pointed at Hui Ling, who was in the middle, and said, "Get rid of her first." With that said, he gripped the Dharma artifact in his hand and rushed toward Hui Ling. No. Hui Ling's face turned pale. Seeing that there was nowhere to hide, she had no choice but to take out the bracelet in her hand again and summon the 10,000 gold steel rings. But it was obvious that she was already frightened. Her attacks were completely out of control. She only cared about summoning more gold steel rings and did not pay attention to where she was hitting. Not only did she not hit the 3 people, but she also hit the ice pillars around her. The ice pillars were originally summoned by the array set up by her gold steel rings. The aura on them was the same. When the gold steel rings hit them, not only did they not break the ice pillars but they also bounced back. Hui Ling did not have time to dodge. In less than a minute she was not hurt by the 3 people. Instead she was beaten black and blue by her own ring. The 3 people who were still in the air. They had never seen someone die like this. The 3 people were stunned for a while. But they did not hesitate for long. While Hui Ling was distracted, they directly rushed down. The array on her Dharma robe was too strong. Sword techniques and immortal spells could not hurt her. The 3 people could only fight with their fists and legs. At that moment, the whole place was filled with the screams of a certain person. All the innocence disappeared. Qin Ji's expression darkened. He clenched his fists by his side and took a deep breath. Only then did he resist the urge to rush up to the stage. The 3 people did not attack for long. Perhaps they saw that Hui Ling had no more strength to fight back. One of them kicked her off the stage. Little Ling. Qin Ji's figure flashed. He picked up the disciple who had been thrown off the stage and returned to the spectator stand. As he treated Hui Ling, who had been beaten beyond recognition, he glared at Chu Xian. It was just a competition. How could he be so heavy-handed? He felt some resentment towards the invincible sect for deliberately not saving Hui Ling time. Master, talisman, father? Hui Ling called out pitifully. If she was still as charming and adorable as before, she would have been able to arouse the sympathy of others. However, at this moment she was at a loss for words. Apart from the filter, Chingu still looked distressed. Be good. Don't talk. Focus on treating your injuries. Ha! So she's your disciple. Chu Xian could tell that Chingu cared about the person in his arms. He laughed coldly and said mockingly, "That's right. Only you would accept such a useless disciple." You. Chingu was exasperated, but he could not lose his temper. Chu Xian laughed proudly. It looks like this competition is my He Chuan's. Before he could finish speaking, he felt two surges of immortal qi appear on the stage. He looked down. Without Hui Ling, the two disciples who were supposed to be the easiest to deal with, the immortal qi in their bodies surged. Their small bodies grew taller and their arms bulged with muscles. This was a body cultivator. Holy shit, how could there be more? Chu Xian did not react. The three people on the stage did not react either. Even the immortal who had rushed over to get to know the two of them was stunned. Before he could block his attack, a fist came crashing down on him. He felt a sharp pain in his chest. The next moment he fell to the ground. Blood rushed to his throat and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Junior brother? The two people in the air were shocked. They were about to rush forward to help when they heard the sound of something cutting through the air behind them. The two of them reflexively turned to defend themselves. They saw another body cultivator suddenly appear behind them. He was raising his leg to kick the person on his right. In the nick of time, that person summoned a defensive array. Then there was a loud crack. It shattered. That person was kicked out of the arena. The last person did not even have time to react. A fist came crashing down on him. He felt an irresistible force coming at him. He fell from the air and landed on the stage with a loud crash. He sank a few feet into the ground and fainted. Two body cultivators? Ah, the hindrance is gone. I can fight without worry. Oh, it's over. Everyone. Chapter 179. There were a total of 4 rounds in this competition. Both sides had won 2 rounds each. Although the Stygian Immortal and Mystic Immortal groups were more important than the last 2 groups, the last 2 rounds were won by both sides. But the last 2 matches were won too beautifully. They were all crushing victories. So overall it looked like it was a draw. Chu Xian's expression darkened. He had already prepared to mock them, but now he had to swallow his words. The emperors of Fengcang did not look too good either. They were all experienced immortals, who could not tell that there was something fishy about the last round. Hui Ling was the leader of the Earth Immortal group. The remaining 2 people were clearly defeated by her. But against the people from Hechuan, how could she lose so badly? If there was a huge disparity in strength between the 2 sides, it would not be a big deal. But as soon as Hui Ling left the stage, the other 2 body cultivators defeated their opponents. Such an outcome made people suspect that there was something fishy about the previous round. Everyone subconsciously looked at the person in Qinji's arms. All sorts of conspiracy theories popped up in their heads. Although they did not say it out loud because of Chu Xian's status, they were already convinced that Hui Ling had cheated. They even suspected that Qingu had said something to Invincible Sect in private. That was why Hui Ling lost the previous round on purpose. Qinji's expression darkened. He looked at Hui Ling with a complicated expression. Everyone else could see it. Naturally he could too. But she was his disciple after all. She was injured and the people from Hechuan were still around. He could only suppress his emotions. He helped Hui Ling up, who had already recovered, and looked at the person opposite him. Celestial Emperor Chu Xian. In this competition, both sides have won 2 rounds. That's a perfect score. Why don't we call it a day? You want to call it a day? Chu Xian snorted coldly. The anger in his eyes intensified. Dream on. Since it's a draw, why don't we fight it out? With that said, he waved the fan in his hand and an immortal aura surged towards Lone Moon. You. Qinji's expression changed. He had no choice but to release his immortal pressure to protect the immortals around him. His face was full of disbelief. Chu Xian, why do you have to do this? I have no intention of fighting with you. You and I are both celestial emperors. If we really fight, the innocent will be hurt. Today is just a friendly match between the immortals of our sect. If you really care about winning or losing, Sai will consider it your win. Bullshit. Chu Xian looked humiliated. He became even angrier. He glared at Chingu as if he wanted to burn a hole in him. Pui? Who cares about your concession? Put away that hypocritical face of yours. I said it before. If we meet again, I will definitely take your life. Since I dared to come here today, I naturally have the confidence to make sure you won't be able to return. Qin Ji's expression suddenly changed. He thought of something and exclaimed, "What did you do?" Chu Xian did not answer. He laughed icily and suddenly shouted, "What are you waiting for?" What? Before the crowd could react, King Guyu, who was seated closest to Chengu, suddenly leapt forward and thrust the immortal sword in his hand towards Chengu. He did not notice it for a moment, but he was a celestial emperor after all. He subconsciously turned around and slapped the other party away. Although he managed to avoid being hit in the vitals, his opponent's sword still managed to break through his defenses, leaving a wound on his hand. Bright red blood immediately gushed out. Guyu, it was not just Chengu. Even the country emperors looked dumbfounded at the person who had been slapped away. No one had expected him to betray them at the last minute. Emperor, you can't blame me for this. Guyu struggled to his feet and smiled smugly. He did not show any signs of panic. You're the one who can't tell right from wrong. You ignored the joint request of the country emperors and insisted on protecting the invincible sect. You have no right to control Fengcong. It's time for this mainland to have a new master. Qin Ji's expression darkened. Do you think that by relying on Chu Xian and hurting me, you can become the master of Fengcong mainland? Without the cultivation of a celestial emperor, how could one control a mainland? Just based on this sword, he did not take it seriously. With a gentle wave of his hand, the wound had already disappeared. Guyu's smile deepened. You're all dead. Of course I can. Just as he finished speaking, the array beneath their feet suddenly lit up. A blinding red light enveloped everyone on the platform. Everyone was shocked. They wanted to fly up, but their bodies froze. They could not move at all. Beneath Qin Ji's feet, something blood-red was moving, forming a strange talisman. Upon closer inspection, they realized that it was Qin Ji's blood. Guyu's attack was not a sneak attack, but to use Qin Ji's blood to set up an array. The other spectating disciples wanted to rush over to save Chengu but were stopped by the immortals Chu Xian had brought. Even if some of them tried to rush over, they would be trapped the moment they touched the red light, unable to move. The red light grew larger and the surrounding scenery changed. The platform that had been used for the martial arts competition cracked open. Mountains and rivers began to appear, as if they were forming a new world. What array is this? Chengu was panicking. He tried to use the immortal qi in his body to break out of the array, but found that the more he resisted, the tighter the restraints on his body became. Immortal Execution Array. Chu Xian took a step forward. He flung Feng Ying's hand away and chased after Shening. Wait. Before he could finish speaking, Shening had already disappeared into the horizon. Holy shit. Lan Hua flew in a hurry. After chasing for a full 15 minutes, he still did not see Shening. In his heart, he cursed the person who had taken Shening away. Indeed, none of the celestial emperors were good people. His heart was in a mess. Deep down, he knew very well that this was the heavens beyond heaven. His opponent was a celestial emperor. Even if he caught up, his identity as a demon would definitely be exposed if they fought. Then, even he would not be able to escape. The most sensible thing to do was to save the young emperor of Invincible Sect first, then think of a way to save Shening. Or he could be calmer and just ignore it. Shening was his good heart. If she was captured or lost, it would only be good for him. Once good heart was gone, he could directly become a sky fiend. He understood the logic, but he could not control himself. Thinking that it was his good heart, his body began to move on its own. He could not control himself. He took off the necklace around his neck and activated his demonic chi to speed up the chase. After a short while, he finally tracked a faint trace of the Celestial Emperor's aura. Delighted, he immediately flew in that direction. In a short while, he saw more than 10 auras stopping on a floating peak. His heart tightened and he subconsciously opened his mouth to shout. Let go of that lady. As soon as he finished speaking, the tallest figure paused, turned around and waved his hand. Hey boss. Good heart? Are you all right? Before he finished speaking, he suddenly stepped on something. Looking down, he found that it was an immortal. Subconsciously, he looked around and found that something was wrong. Why were there more than 10 people lying on the ground? Why were there a few hanging on the tree? Why did the person Shening was stepping on look so familiar? What exactly was going on? What happened in the last quarter of an hour? Degree, good? Heart. This was good heart. Was he mistaken? You're all right? Subconsciously he looked at her. She was all right. She did not lose an arm, did not break a leg, her hair was not messed up, except that her clothes were a little gray and ugly. Oh, that was because she did not look good in the first place. I'm all right. Xining tilted her head, suddenly remembering something. Oh, right, see dash. Just as he was about to ask about the situation of the others, the person beneath his feet seemed to have heard something shocking, and he immediately started struggling like a zombie. You are one Celestial Emperor Lan Hua, aren't you? He seemed to want to turn around, but just as he moved, Xining stepped on him again. He could only turn his head with all his might, trying to look at Lan Hua. Lan Hua frowned and looked at the person on the ground, who was beaten beyond recognition. Who is this pighead? Xining thought for a moment, then said, the person who called himself your gay friend. What good chicken oil? Celestial Emperor, it's me, it's me. The pighead tried his best to hide his disfigured face and moved closer to Lan Hua. I'm Chu Xian, master. You're still alive, that's great, master. Oh, so they're master and disciple? Xining paused and subconsciously retracted her foot. She turned to look at the person beside her. Hey, what are you talking about? I've never had any disciples before. Lan Hua frowned. Celestial Emperor. Chu Xian became even more agitated. He stared straight at Lan Hua and said, I'm really Chu Xian. I'm the Chu Xian from 70,000 years ago, of Shu Tai Peak. Shu Tai Peak? Lan Hua squatted down and looked at him carefully. After thinking for a long time, he said seriously, I don't know you. Chu Xian, Xining, she seemed to have heard something shattering. Chu Xian's originally purple face turned pale. It was as if he had lost all his life. His body trembled and he said after a while, Chu Xian knows? I'm not fit to be your disciple. I didn't dare to in the past, and now even more so. I was deceived by others in the past. I'm really sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just beg you to give me a chance to redeem myself. As if he couldn't hold it in any more, his tears flowed down and covered his face. Damn. He looked even uglier now. Even if you kill me with your own hands, I will not complain. Oh, what a deep feeling. Xining looked at Lan Hua again. Why are you looking at me like that? Lan Hua felt goosebumps all over his body. He turned to glare at her and took a step back in disgust. I really don't know him. Celestial Emperor. Chu Xian looked even more hopeless now. Xining sighed. Well, we'll talk about flirting later. Who's flirting? Speak clearly. Hey, you're not dead yet, right? If you're not dead, come back with me to break the array. It was almost lunchtime and Chef was still trapped in the array. That's right. Lan Hua thought of this as well. This was not the time to talk about this. He forgot to ask Xining how she managed to escape. You have to go back. Chu Xian looked at her in disbelief. Did the Celestial Emperor want to save that ungrateful Chingu? Why? Xining, who had not eaten yet, looked at him coldly. Do you have a problem with that? Images flashed across Chu Xian's mind. His entire body trembled and his pig head trembled. He subconsciously hid behind Lan Hua. No. Compared to Emperor Lan Hua, this female immortal was scarier. Lan Hua did not mind. He summoned his flying sword and picked up the pig's head from the ground. Together with Xining, they flew back. The three of them flew at top speed, but it still took them a quarter of an hour to return to the Meru realm. During this time, they finally understood the relationship between Lan Hua and Chu Xian. 70,000 years ago, Chu Xian and Chingu were immortals from Yunza continent's Shu Tai Peak. Both of them were mystic immortals. Because they were itinerant cultivators, their cultivation techniques were not very good. That caused Chu Xian to have problems during his heavenly tribulation. At that time, Lan Hua had not become a demon. He was only an immortal emperor. He happened to pass by and help Chu Xian. He even gave them cultivation techniques that suited them. They had only met once, but Chu Xian already saw Lan Hua as his master. With the cultivation techniques that Chu Xian left behind, Chu Xian cultivated diligently and both of them became celestial emperors. Later, when they heard that demons were causing trouble, Chingu invited Chu Xian and the other celestial emperors to eliminate them. At that time, Chu Xian did not know who the demons were. When Lan Hua helped him, he did not tell them their names. After becoming a demon, Chu Xian was surrounded by demonic qi and could not see his appearance. After this matter was settled, he found out that the cultivation technique he was practicing was created by Celestial Emperor Lan Hua. And Lan Hua was the demon that they had worked together to exterminate. Chu Xian was in great pain because he had killed his benefactor with his own hands. When he found out that Lan Hua had become a demon because of his younger brother Lan Yu, he decided to work with Chen Gu to avenge Celestial Emperor Lan Hua. But Lan Yu was already the Celestial Emperor of Yunza continent. Chen Gu did not want any conflict and rejected him. Chu Xian was so ungrateful that he hated Chen Gu as well. That was why he had been causing trouble for Lan Yu and Chen Gu all these years. Chu Xian's tears and snot flowed down his face. He looked so ashamed and angry that he wanted to jump off the sword. Lan Hua, on the other hand, looked calm and unperturbed. He even wanted to eat some melon seeds. Because Chu Xian could not forget this past, he had no recollection of it. He also said that he had given so many cultivation techniques to others in the past. How could he remember who it was? That's right, Boss Lan used to be a spendthrift. Shening was starting to suspect that her brother had kicked her off the stage because she thought she was too extravagant with her money. It looked like she had to treat Father Nyo better in the future. Chapter 180. By the time Shen Ying and company returned to the Shumi realm, there were no other immortals outside the array. They did not know if they had escaped or if they had gone to get reinforcements. There was only a huge blood-red semicircle covering an area of more than 10 kilometers. They flew to the top of the semicircle and looked inside. They could faintly see a group of people on the right. They were the emperors who had been watching the battle earlier. Chef and Father Nyo were among them. But now they were all lying on the ground, motionless. The entire array was so quiet that not even the sound of breathing could be heard. It was as if everyone had fallen asleep. What's going on? Lan Hua turned and glared at Chu Xian. Was this the immortal execution array or a soul confusion array? Why were they all unconscious? Emperor, this is just the surface, Chu Xian explained. The array is complete. Their primordial spirits have been sucked into the array. With that said, he conjured a seal and waved his hand towards the array. A golden light flashed on the blood-red semicircle and the scene inside changed. The primordial ruins had disappeared, replaced by a large number of high mountains, dangerous peaks, and lava. Every place was as terrifying as hell, and the air was filled with wind blades and sword chi. The immortals who had been lying on the platform were now inside. They were scattered all over the place, trying their best to defend themselves. But no matter how many attacks they blocked, there was always another wave of attacks. It was as if there was no end to it. If this went on, the people inside would die sooner or later. Immortals have longevity. As long as they have a breath left, they can recover, Chu Xian continued. So ordinary attacks cannot be used against immortals. That's why the immortal execution array will suck in the primordial spirits of the people inside. Once the primordial spirit is destroyed, the immortal will be executed. So what was lying on the platform was just their bodies. Don't talk nonsense. Hurry and break the array. Shening pulled Chu Xian out from behind Lan Hua. It was almost noon. I can't break it. Chu Xian's legs gave way and he almost fell to his knees. You can't break the array you set up? Lan Hua looked at him in surprise. Was he joking? I really can't break it. This is an ancient formation. It has always been here and I discovered it by accident 100 years ago. Chu Xian was on the verge of tears. If a celestial emperor could break this array, he would not have used it against Qinggu. This array is based on the 5 elements of yin and yang. The closer you get to the heart of the array, the more dangerous it becomes. Also, it is constantly changing. Only by destroying the core formation stone can we break this formation. However, the core formation stone is located at the very center of the formation. If not, we will also be affected by the fragrance of the flowers. Oh. Shening nodded. Lan Hua flew in through the opening on his sword. At that moment, I Ching and Lone Moon, who were in the mesmerizing valley, realized that something was wrong. They looked around. What's going on? Where are Yu Hong and the others? They were all together earlier, but the moment they entered the sea of flowers, they were the only 2 left. There was nothing but white fog in front of them. I can't sense their auras. I Ching shook his head. Lone Moon's expression darkened. There must be something wrong with this sea of flowers. Be careful. I Ching nodded. Suddenly he paused and looked straight ahead. Master. In the vast expanse of whiteness, a familiar figure slowly walked out. Shening, you're finally here. This is 2. Lone Moon took 2 steps forward, but I Ching grabbed him. Wait. What? Lone Moon paused and turned to look at him. Suddenly he thought of something and stopped. What's wrong with you guys? Why are you all standing there like idiots? Shening waved at them. Hurry, follow me out. This array is very dangerous. As soon as she said that, not only I Ching but Lone Moon also frowned. Shining, do you know the way out? Lone Moon asked. Of course. How else am I going to save you? Shining rolled her eyes. Where's the way? It's over there. Hurry, follow me. We'll get out if we walk along the east side. The two exchanged a look. Suddenly they raised their swords at the same time and rushed toward Shining. Without hesitation, they waved their swords at her. Where did this monster come from? Her impersonation is so unprofessional. When did Shining remember to pass by? How dare she impersonate Master with such poor acting skills? In the past 4 years she has never walked back even when she went to the back mountain to water the plants. How dare she say that she knows the way out? In an instant, thousands of sword beams filled the entire sea of flowers. The Shining was cut into thousands of pieces. She turned into a pile of twigs that fell to the ground. Not far away, Chu Xian, Lan Hua, Shining who had just landed. Motherf asterisk her. Although the two of them were fine, why was she feeling so upset? Chapter 181. Well, cough. Lan Hua coughed. It's a good thing you're not affected by the illusion. Shining, haha. She suddenly did not feel like saving them. Who's there? The two of them stopped their swords and turned to look at the three people not far away. Their expressions changed again. You still don't want to give up. You actually created 3 people this time. Lone Moon snorted coldly and was about to rush over with his sword. Wait. I Ching immediately pulled him back. Ask them first. With that said, he stepped forward and scanned the 3 people in front of them. Then he said to Shining, Master, what do you want to eat for lunch? The corner of Shinying's mouth twitched. She glanced at Father Nyo, gritted her teeth and said, Immortal. Crane. I Ching, Lone Moon, alright, this one was real. Where did you go? Why are you so late? Lone Moon heaved a sigh of relief and walked over. He looked at Chu Xian, whose face was swollen and bruised. He was surprised to see Lan Hua. Why is he here too? They're good friends reuniting. Shining explained casually. What chicken oil? Lan Hua was confused. Thinking of the current situation, he did not ask further. He pointed at the sea of flowers and said, This is the Heart Captivation Valley. These flowers can create illusions. Your other disciples are inside. We have to save them quickly. If they stay too long, they won't be able to get out. Their expressions darkened. I Ching said directly, Tell me where they are. 30 feet southwest and east. Lan Hua had already memorized their positions when he was in the air. He immediately pointed in the direction of the disciples. Time is tight. We'd better split up and save. Before he could finish speaking, I Ching suddenly turned and waved his sword. There were a few dragon roars and a huge burst of sword chi exploded. Tens of huge dragons formed from sword chi roared and rushed in all directions. Everywhere they passed, flowers and grass were uprooted. Soil flew everywhere and the ground was cut. In a short while, apart from the 5 directions that they had deliberately avoided, the entire sea of flowers had turned into a pile of mud. Thank you. I Ching kept his sword and bowed. Chu Xian, Lan Hua, this kind of sword aura, it was AF * King Young Emperor. Are you kidding me? What on earth happened in the immortal world during these years of cultivating the fiendish Tao? Shining and Lone Moon, on the other hand, walked in the direction of the disciples as if they were used to it. With the sea of flowers destroyed, they naturally woke up from the illusion. Next, how do we break this array? Lone Moon asked. Although they were already safe, there were still many people trapped in other places. They couldn't just leave them to die. Moreover, they were all in the primordial spirit state. If they did not break the formation, they would not be able to return to their bodies. Shining tilted her head and looked at the pig head behind her. Chu Xian shuddered and hurriedly confessed, Well, actually the Heart Captivation Valley is also in the center of the Immortal Execution Array, so the Heart Array Stone should be nearby. He really did not expect these people to solve the Obsession Valley so quickly. It seemed that even if they didn't come in, this array wouldn't be able to trap them. Then let's go and find the Heart Formation Stone. Lone Moon said a few words to Yu Hong and the others, then set up an array to prevent them from getting separated. Then he turned and led the group into the white fog. That's right. Shining had just taken 2 steps when she remembered something. She turned to Lan Hua and said, Boss, bring the necklace back. It felt weird to keep emitting black smoke. Lan Hua hesitated. Was she worried that everyone would recognize him as a demon when they woke up? Suddenly he felt a warmth in his heart. A familiar feeling flowed out from his heart and spread throughout his entire body. His hand uncontrollably reached for his collar. Wait. Good heart, don't be rash. Even if we don't have the immortal stone, we can't just strip him here. Lan Hua suddenly felt an urge to die. At the last moment, a thought flashed across his mind. He turned and grabbed Chu Xian. You want to repay a debt of gratitude, right? Chu Xian was overjoyed. Master, you finally acknowledge. Did you bring the storage bag? Before he could finish speaking, Lan Hua suddenly reached out his hand. Yes, I did. Chu Xian subconsciously handed it over. Thus, in the next moment he saw his benefactor open the bag and empty out the storage bag. He then forcefully shoved it to the female immortal surnamed Shen in front of him. As he emptied it out he said, I don't know what these are either. But take it all. As long as he did not take off his clothes. So boss can use it like this. Lonman's eyes flashed. He took out an empty storage bag and handed it over. Come Shining. Use this to keep it. I Ching, the disciples. Chu Xian. His heart hurt but he could not say it out loud. He had to admit that the celestial emperor was indeed rich. Lan Hua searched for nearly an hour before he emptied Chu Xian's bag of treasures. Emperor. Celestial emperor. Chu Xian held the empty storage bag in disbelief. Finally he could not help but ask, I wonder if this Shen, exalted goddess, is yours? She's a kind heart. Can't you tell? Kind heart? He subconsciously held his swollen pig head. Are you sure she's a kind heart, and not a demon heart? The few of them walked into the white fog. Without the flowers they did not encounter any danger. After walking for about 15 minutes, Lone Moon, who was the only one who was proficient in array formations, suddenly stopped. The eye of the array should be in front of us. He pointed in front of them. I Ching conjured a wind seal. Immediately, a strong gust of wind blew away the thick fog. A stone platform appeared in front of them. There were all sorts of golden dermic talismans on it. All around it were array diagrams. Red liquid flowed out of the array and seeped into the ground along the diagrams. In the middle of the array sat a man. He was sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed. A wound on his hand was bleeding profusely. Qin Gu. Lone Moon exclaimed. Why was he here? What's more, it was not his primordial spirit but his real body sitting in the middle. What's going on? Lan Hua turned to look at Chu Xian. Chu Xian glared at the man in the eye of the array resentfully. He said unwillingly, this array was set up using his blood. That's why his body is the eye of the array. If everything went smoothly he would bleed his last drop of blood here. Only when all the immortal qi in his body dissipated would the array disappear. What's more, Qin Gu had the highest cultivation level in the array. Naturally he was the best choice. He is now one with the immortal execution array. His body is under the control of the array. His primordial spirit is not in his body. The heart array stone is under his feet. If we want to break the array we have to defeat him first. I can't make him leave the heart array stone either. He looked at Shining guiltily and continued, that's why. I said I can't break it. If we want to destroy the heart array stone we have to fight him. One of us will be injured. His life might even be in danger. He is the celestial emperor of Fengcang. You can't bear to injure. Before he could finish speaking, I Ching and Lone Moon had already rushed out with their swords. Without any hesitation they swung their swords at Qin Gu. The man in the array opened his eyes at the same time. His eyes were unfocused. He fought with the two of them like a puppet. What a great opportunity. I've been wanting to beat this bastard for a long time. Chu Xian, was he imagining things? Why did these two sword immortals look so excited? Did the people of Fengcang continent all look down on the celestial emperor? Chapter 182. Shining and the rest left the heavens beyond heaven on the second day. When the country emperors woke up, they threw Chu Xian to Qin Gu. This was a matter between the two continents. Invincible sect belonged to the Fengcang continent. Chu Xian setting up the immortal execution array was obviously a provocation to the entire continent. This matter could only be left to Qin Gu, who was also a celestial emperor. Chu Xian did not even struggle. Qin Gu immediately sealed his immortal qi and locked him up. Perhaps because Shining was around, or because he knew that Qin Gu would not dare to do anything to him. After all, he was the celestial emperor of Hechuan. His death could easily lead to an all-out war between the two continents. Although they did not know how Qin Gu would deal with it, he would probably be busy for a while. Lone Moon was different from the various angry country emperors. He had no interest in this kind of political battle. He quickly led the disciples back. Their immortal boat had just reached the entrance of the heavens beyond heaven when a ray of light flashed by. A figure hurried up to them. "Everyone please hold on." It was Chingu. He had flown in a hurry as if he had rushed over at the last minute. He stopped above the 10-direction boat. "Sect Master Shin, elders, why didn't you inform me that you were leaving? I could have sent you off." Lone Moon looked at Chinji's swollen face. He subconsciously turned his head away and lifted his hand to undo the protective array on the boat. He coughed lightly and bowed. "Why did the Celestial Emperor come personally? Everyone here is an old friend. Since you are leaving, I naturally had to send you off." Chingu flew down and looked at the three people in front of him. Out of habit, the corners of his mouth turned up. He wanted to smile, but the wound at the corner of his mouth made a soft sound. He immediately stopped smiling. Lone Moon and I Ching, they turned to look at the sky. They did not know anything. It was all thanks to the two elders that the immortal execution array and the country emperors and I were able to escape. Chingu solemnly cupped his fists, full of gratitude. The three of them, they suddenly felt a little guilty. Only then did they realize that he had come alone. Unlike before, when he appeared with a group of immortal officials behind him. Ahem, that, the Celestial Emperor is too kind. We are all immortals of Fengsong. Besides, wasn't it all thanks to the Celestial Emperor that we succeeded in breaking the array? Lone Moon stepped forward and answered. Everyone came out unscathed, but he was the only one with a swollen head. That was why he discussed it with I Ching. When they came out, they said that Chingu was the one who broke the formation and that they were just there to support him. After all, they were beating up his body, and his primordial spirit wasn't inside, so he shouldn't have discovered it. Probably. Fellow immortal Lone Moon, you must be joking. Chingu sighed. His eyes were filled with genuine gratitude. The emperors do not know the truth, but I do. What? Lone Moon's heart tightened. Didn't they say that his primordial spirit was not here? He wouldn't be looking for trouble, right? At that time, my Yuan Shin had left my body and I couldn't move at all. How could I have broken the array to save the emperors? He sighed, and his expression became even more sincere. So, there must be two people who broke the array and they must have protected my body in the array. Everyone. Did the other immortals know about such a wild imagination? You wanted to help me stabilize the emperors, so you said that I was the one who broke the array, right? Chingu looked confident. Lone Moon paused, then laughed even more profitably. He nodded shamelessly and said, I still can't hide it from you, Celestial Emperor. I Ching, Shining, indeed businessmen had to be thick-skinned. How shameless. It's been so many years since we last met. I thought there was a gap between us. He shook his head self-deprecatingly. I didn't think that the people who would help me at such a critical moment would be you. This is the second time you've helped me. Chingus can't thank you enough. He suddenly bent down and bowed solemnly to them. Lone Moon suddenly felt that he had hit him a little too hard just now. Celestial Emperor, don't stand on ceremony. This is what we should do. Not to mention that they were trapped in the array, the invincible sect was also a part of Fengsong. Chen Ji's expression became more and more agitated. Suddenly he seemed to recall something. He frowned and said, there is indeed a problem with the Earth Immortal Tournament. Weeling. I didn't teach her well. I've already revoked her title as the champion and punished her to go into seclusion for 100 years. As for how she won the tournament, I will find out and give you an explanation. With that, he waved his hand and an immortal artifact floated in front of them. It was the immortal artifact that had been awarded to the Earth Immortal Enchantress. This was my oversight. I didn't notice the problem with my disciple and was unfair. I hope you haven't fallen out with me because of this. Lone Moon fell silent. He didn't know how to reply. Shining, on the other hand, grabbed the immortal artifact and said, oh, it's all right. With that, she threw it to the girl in purple behind her. Little Z, it's yours. The body cultivator girl, who was originally ranked second among the Earth Immortals, caught it subconsciously. She looked confused. Thank you, Sect Master. Sect Master gave it to her. She was happy. Sect Master Shin is indeed magnanimous. Chingu thanks you. With that said, he bowed to the few of them once more. After exchanging a few more pleasantries with Lone Moon, he turned to I Ching and said, actually, I have a favor to ask of fellow immortal I Ching. Lone Moon frowned subconsciously. No wonder he was so polite today. So there was something else. What is it? I Ching asked. Chingu took out something that looked like a white seal and continued, this is the immortal seal of Chonglan. Guyu betrayed Feng Tsang and is no longer fit to be the emperor of Chonglan. In the whole of Chonglan, brother I Ching's cultivation level is the highest. That's why I would like to ask you to replace Guyu as the emperor of Chonglan. Emperor. Lone Moon and his companions were stunned. They knew that Qinggu was looking for I Ching for a big reason. They even suspected that Qinggu would ask him to attack Hechuan. After all, Qin Ji's cultivation level was probably no weaker than Qin Ji's. They did not expect him to ask I Ching to be the emperor of Chonglan. Fellow immortal I Ching is already a young emperor and a sword immortal. I'm afraid there's no other immortal stronger than you in the whole of Chonglan. That's why you're the most. I'm not doing it. What? Qinggu was stunned. He did not expect I Ching to reject him. What? Because. I Ching said seriously, I don't have time to cook. Qinggu. What the hell? Lone Moon. You're an immortal chef. Shining. What a good chef. The corner of Lone Moon's mouth twitched. He sighed and answered on Qinji's behalf, Thank you for your kindness, Celestial Emperor. But the matter of a new emperor is very important. I Ching has always been an itinerant cultivator. I'm afraid it's not convenient for him to manage a region. Qinggu said it nicely, but if he really wanted to take on the job, given the nature of this master and disciple, he would be the one who would be exhausted in the end. The more than 200 immortals and invincible sect were already worried sick. If it was the immortals of an entire country, he still wanted to live a few more years. He definitely could not take on this job. I know that the few of you have noble characters and are not greedy for fame and fortune, but Qinggu looked like he was in a difficult position. He had no choice. Someone had to manage Chonglan and they were the most suitable. How about? Lone Moon's eyes flashed. How about I recommend someone to Celestial Emperor? Really? Qinji's eyes lit up. Yes. Lone Moon nodded vigorously. He's definitely very suitable. Since fellow immortal Lone Moon recommended someone, I naturally believe him. May I know who he is? He's **** a few kilometers away. Sun Shu, who was about to bring his people back, suddenly sneezed. Why did he feel a chill on his back? Something hidden was exploding continuously. Shining? Ha! Shining paused. You're not thinking of killing them, are you? No, I just wanted to make a suggestion. What? Lone Moon suddenly revealed a frightening smile. The next time you want to have a serious conversation with me, can you not choose to do it in the air? Ha! Before Shining could ask, Lone Moon suddenly released a huge burst of immortal chi that he had never seen before. His entire body was like a glowing object, shining with a dazzling white light. The supreme-grade immortal artifact 10-direction boat under his feet suddenly exploded with a loud bang. Holy shit! Shining lost her balance and fell straight down. Master. Fortunately, I Ching was quick to react. He pulled her onto his flying sword and flew out of the range of the immortal chi. What's going on? He's having an epiphany. Damn. The buff that Father Nyo had gained from this one conversation had not been removed. Where are the others? I think they're having an epiphany too. So he had just cast a group buff. Wait. Xin Ying's expression changed. She subconsciously wanted to run in that direction. Father Nyo, you haven't given me my living expenses. Chapter 184. After this group buff, everyone's cultivation level increased tremendously. Especially Siyu and Yu Hong, both of them became mystic immortals. Father Nyo's cultivation level did not change. He still looked like an exalted immortal, but his immortal chi had increased tenfold, reaching the level of a young emperor. Since the heavens beyond heaven was not far away, they turned around and went back to the Emperor Ascension stage. But after this enlightenment, the immortal chi around them seemed to be different. The immortal chi that used to be pure and unruffled now seemed to have a tinge of gold in it. It surrounded everyone, especially Father Nyo. If he did not purposely hide it, the tinge of gold would have solidified. I Ching studied it for a long time but could not figure out what it was that suddenly appeared. Even Feng Ying's system scan could only show that it was harmless. After going back and forth like this, it was already 4 months later when they returned to Invincible Sect. Invincible Sect was still the same. Although they did not have the demonic chi around them to train, they had the support of many Dharma treasures. The disciples' cultivation speed did not slow down, but continued to grow steadily. Especially Xian Tong, she was already showing signs of growing immortal bones. Compared to the other disciples, she was very slow. But with the balance of the necklace, she could still cultivate to this level. It was obvious how hard she worked. Roasted Chicken Gal was naturally the happiest. She reported to Lone Moon and created a cave abode at the bottom of the mountain where the immortal chi was thick, so that she could cultivate in peace. Every once in a while she would go over to check on her. Feng Ying, on the other hand, was hopping mad. He felt like he had a fake girlfriend. 2 months later, later plant radish in the southeast corner of the back mountain. I've reserved a spot. The biggest pit is there. Lone Moon waved his sleeves and threw a flower pot as tall as a person in front of Shening. In the middle of the flower pot was a green radish. It was rolling its leaves and playing with the stones around it out of boredom. Each stone was aimed in Lone Moon's direction. Unfortunately, they were all blocked by the array outside the pot. What? Shening finished the last mouthful of rice and looked at the flower pot on the ground. Didn't radish have its own pit in the back mountain? Its previous pit was too far away. Now planted on the immortal meridian. This way those immortal herbs will grow faster. The immortal herb seeds that Wu Lai and Biao Ting sent over previously had already sprouted, and the 2 celestial emperors were afraid that they wouldn't be able to grow them, so they insisted on giving them 2 immortal veins. Now that the immortal meridian had been integrated into the back mountain and the array formation had been adjusted, radish naturally had to switch to another pit. Don't worry, Father Nyo. Leave the radish to me. I will definitely grow it to wealth, to standards, and to characteristics. With that said, with a swoosh, she picked up the flower pot on the ground and went to the back of the mountain. Lone Moon then turned to look at the person who was left alone beside him. I'm going to do things too. Lan Hua immediately raised his claws. So, as an all-rounder, the former celestial emperor Lan Hua. In the short span of a day, he was watched by Lone Moon to set up a protective mountain array, as well as hundreds of arrays all over the sect. He refined 3 batches of regular pills and 2 immortal artifacts. He was completely exhausted. Only when he lay on the bed did he remember something. Wait, the person watching him was not that pervert I Ching. Why did he have to be so obedient? Late at night, a round white ball of fur passed through the front hall and went straight in a certain direction in the side hall. It stopped outside the window of a small independent building. It jumped onto the windowsill, its 2 furry tails hanging below the windowsill. The little white animal gently opened the window. Its black eyes turned and carefully scanned the inside of the house. Suddenly, it fixed its eyes on a wooden table not far away. Its eyes immediately widened and it let out an excited cry. Coo. Just as it let out a cry, it immediately covered its mouth with its front paw. It panted soundlessly and looked around cautiously. After a while, as if seeing that no one had discovered it, it then stretched out a slender tail towards the direction of the wooden table. There was only 1 lamp on the table. At this time it had already burned out. It looked like it was made of jade. There were white and green patterns floating on it. Even in this dark night, the lamp still emitted a faint glow. The little white animal tried its best to stretch out its tail, but the wooden table was at the other end of the house. There was a long distance between them. It could not reach it all. It seemed to be a little anxious. One of its tails swayed back and forth impatiently. After a while it seemed to have thought of something. Suddenly, it spoke the human language and softly chanted a spell. For a moment, its originally fat tail began to thin and elongate. It was a full 2 times longer than before and had successfully reached the wooden table. However, it was still not enough to roll up the lamp. Only the fine fur on its tail could reach a little bit of the lamp wall. Half of its body had already crawled through the window. Seeing that it still could not reach the lamp, its entire fur trembled. It simply stretched out its other tail and opened its mouth to bite down hard on the tail. Red blood immediately gushed out and flowed onto the tail. The other tail also began to stretch and elongate, even longer than the previous one. The little white animal was so happy that it forgot to stop its bleeding. It directly extended its long tail towards the lamp and was about to reach it. Shening, who was sitting at the table, in the next moment she reached out and silently moved the lamp in the center of the table an inch further. It's hot, Shening explained in a serious manner. White Fur was shocked. The fur on its body instantly stood up. A female voice sounded, "Why are you here? Since when was there someone in the house?" It actually did not notice at all. The little white animal's face was full of panic. It seemed to have thought of something and suddenly bared its teeth at her fiercely. "Give me the lamp." With that said, there was a flash of red light on its body. Its 2 tails once again grew wildly. Together with Xin Ying's hand, they wrapped around the lamp layer by layer. It turned around and wanted to escape through the window. It pulled with all its might, wanting to drag the person in the lamp away. However, before it could jump off the windowsill, it found that it could not move. How was this possible? It immediately chanted a wind spell and used 10 times its strength to pull, but it still couldn't move it. Instead, there was a tearing pain at the root of its tail. Its entire body was in pain. Xining looked at her hand that was wrapped into a ball by the tail and frowned in disgust. So hairy. She subconsciously raised her hand and gently pulled. White Hair, who had been unable to move for a long time, was instantly pulled back. His 4 claws were still gripping the windowsill, and with a rumble he was pulled into the house along with the windowsill. It rolled to Xinying's feet and fainted. Xining, this was? A midnight snack that the sect let loose? 10 minutes later. Demon? Lone Moon, who heard the commotion and rushed over, picked up the little white animal on the ground. It's a level 2 demon. What happened? He turned to look at Yu Hong. How did such a weak demon break into the invincible sect? It could even make its way into Xinying's room. I don't know either. Yu Hong shook her head. Could it be that none of you discovered such an obvious demon? Lone Moon suddenly had some doubts about the effectiveness of the new array set up by the sect. There are many animals raised by the disciples in the sect. I don't know when a demon sneaked in. The corner of Lone Moon's mouth twitched. Aren't the animals you raise unintelligent poultry? Don't think that I don't know. The animals they raised were all meat dishes that they prepared for Xining when he deducted their food allowance. This is obviously a fox. A 2-tailed spirit fox. Fox. Yu Hong paused. She looked at the round body. No wonder no one had discovered it. I thought it was a rabbit demon. Siyu, I thought it was a goat demon. Bitao, I thought it was a pig demon. Xining, it looks meaty. I Ching, Master, should I go get the knife now? Hey, that's enough. What does this have to do with you being here? Here comes another freeloader. Lan Hua subconsciously averted his gaze. Anyway, it has nothing to do with me. He came on his own. I'm here to look for Mas. Celestial Emperor, Chu Xian said in a low voice. That day in the Meru realm, there were many things I did not have time to say, so? How long do you intend to stay here? 2-3 days? Or a few months? It depended on the Celestial Emperor. Get lost. The two of them shouted together. Lan Hua, Chu Xian, did they think the invincible sect was a shelter? Why did they all come here? It was not enough for a demon to come here. Now they had to deal with a celestial emperor from a hostile continent. If this went on, they would become the target of everyone. Father Nyo, you're a guest. Don't mind the details. Xining stood up and patted Father Nyo's shoulder. She turned to Chu Xian and asked, Did you bring immortal stones? Chu Xian paused. He did not understand what she meant, but he still took out a few bags of immortal stones from his storage bag and handed them over. I did bring a few bags. You should have said so earlier. Xinying's eyes lit up. So many. She hurriedly took the bags and handed them all to Lone Moon. Lone Moon's expression softened a little. Not tonight. You must leave tomorrow. On account of the accommodation fees. Chu Xian, why did he feel like he was being robbed? Xen Han. Chu Xian, who knew about the fox demon, was shocked. Of course I know her. Isn't that Yishui? Yishui continent? Lone Moon was shocked too. Is Xen Han the name of the Yishui celestial emperor? That's right. Chu Xian nodded. Don't you know? Wasn't this common knowledge in the immortal world? The new immortal team expressed that they really did not know. Yishui is Xen Han's territory. Chu Xian nodded and looked at the fox demon on the ground. He frowned and said, But he's a strange person. He's cold and hard to get along with. He doesn't interact with people from other continents. I've only seen him a few times. Among the 10 celestial emperors, only Chingu, that smooth talker, is on friendly terms with him. So this fox was the celestial emperor's spirit pet. Lone Moon looked down at the round little animal on the ground. No wonder it could grow to such a size. Since you're the celestial emperor's spirit pet, what's the point of stealing the spirit convening lamp? Lone Moon continued to ask. The fox demon was still curled up into a ball, with no intention of answering. If you don't tell us, we'll have to send you to the heavens beyond heavens and ask Celestial Emperor Xen Han in person. No. The white fox panicked. Suddenly, It pounced at Lone Moon trying to break out of the array. But it was just a little fox demon that could not even transform. How could it possibly break out of Lone Moon's array? In an instant it was bounced back and its body was charred by the array. The white fox was roasted black, and it was completely sprawled on the ground, unable to move. It could only let out a series of low whimpers. Lone Moon conjured a sleeping spell to make the fox demon faint. Since it was the Celestial Emperor's spirit pet, he could not hurt it too badly. No matter why it stole the lamp, he would find out once he asked Xin Han. It looks like we won't be able to get an answer anytime soon, Lone Moon instructed. Yu Hong, lock the fox demon in the array at the back of the mountain. Yes. We'll find a time to send it back to E. Wait. Halfway through his sentence, his expression darkened. Shining put down the fox's claws. I told you not to eat them. Che your ass. Are you from Guangdong? Wait. Not even your tail. Damn it. It looked like he had to send this fox that could not transform away as soon as possible. Immediately. Father Nyo and I Ching had gone to the heavens beyond heavens to send the fox. They were in such a hurry because the fox demon had gotten into trouble again in the middle of the night. It wanted to escape, but it triggered the Meridian Protection Array at the back of the mountain and became a roasted fox. If Radish had not been nearby and fed it a few immortal herbs, it would probably have died. This fat fox was too troublesome, but it refused to say anything. To prevent it from tormenting itself to death, Lone Moon had no choice but to head to the heavens ahead of time. He did not know Celestial Emperor Yi Water's personality. To prevent any accidents, he dragged I Ching along. Without the two parents around, the entire invincible sect was completely free. They stopped working and planting immortal herbs. The entire sect began to study the 101 ways to cook for the sect master. Shining was hesitating about whether to organize a cooking competition or something when the fox demon that Father Nyo had taken away suddenly returned. And with a splat, it fell into the courtyard of the back hall, smashing through the roof and falling straight into the big pot that Chef did not allow anyone to touch. Shining, everyone outside the house. So, it wanted to be an ingredient? It really was a fox with a goal. Just as Shining was thinking about whether to grant it its wish, the whole fox suddenly climbed out of the pot. Its two claws hooked onto the corner of her clothes. With an anxious female voice, it said, Sect Master Shin, your disciple has been taken away by a demon immortal. This was a pig demon, right? What happened? Lan Hua was the first to react. He picked up the fox demon from the ground. How did you come back? And it was alone. Where are the others? We met a demon immortal on the way. The fox demon trembled and said in a panic, they fought, and were taken away. They saw that I was also a demon, so they did not touch me. Chapter 186. Feng Tian Feng Wan Palace. In the main hall, a blue-robed blackbird paced back and forth in front of the boxes filled with seeds, occasionally asking questions of the immortal officials beside him. These are the newly found immortal herb seeds? Yes, Emperor. There are a total of 375 types, 100 of each. They are all high-grade immortal seeds, specially grown on the immortal meridian. I guarantee that they will sprout within 2 days. Blackbird nodded. Have you checked them? Are you sure there are no bad seeds? I've checked them 10 times. Check them again before we leave. He frowned. We're sending them to the exalted goddess. Not a single seed can go wrong, understand? Yes, Emperor. Also change this box. The ordinary spirit sealing box can only seal immortal chi. Change it to one made of black immortal wood. Yes. Oh yes, did you deliver the immortal meridian we talked about? Add another one this time. If it sprouts but doesn't mature, it will be terrible. Yes. Oh yes, bring the immortal aura too. It will grow faster. Yes. Be careful on the way. Don't damage it. Use your immortal chi to protect it. Forget it, I'll deliver it. I don't feel at ease. Blackbird waved his hand and kept all the boxes of seeds into a jade storage box. He picked it up carefully and prepared to leave. An immortal official hurriedly ran in. Emperor Tenshi's Emperor by requests an audience. By T? Blackbird paused. Why is he here? He even chose to deliver the seeds to the exalted goddess. Frowning, he handed the jade box to the immortal official beside him and instructed him to deliver it to the invincible sect today. He waved his hand to invite the person outside in. Emperor Blackbird. A moment later, a man dressed in a long green robe with golden embroidery walked in. His face was covered with a snow-white beard, but his voice was as loud as a bell. It's been many years. I wonder how you've been. Emperor Whitetail. Blackbird smiled courteously. What brings you to my Phoenix Palace today? Although they were both demons, the Fengtian continent was mostly made up of flying beasts, while the Tenzhou continent was mostly made up of land beasts. The relationship between the two continents could not be considered good, but it was not bad either. This was the first time Bai Ti had taken the initiative to look for him. We are both from the demon clan. It is only right that we interact more. Bai Ti smiled even more warmly. That's it? Wu Hong's expression did not change as he exposed him. Did Emperor Bai really come here just to catch up with me? Is there nothing else? Monarch Blackbird is indeed quick-witted. The smile on Bai Ti's face froze. I'm not afraid of Brother Wu laughing at me. I am here today to ask the Celestial Emperor for a favor. It's about my disobedient daughter. What's wrong? Your little princess disappeared again? Blackbird's voice was low, and there was a hint of ridicule in it. The entire Beyond Avalon knew that Bai Ti had a daughter. Bai Ti seemed to be used to it. He let out a long sigh and said, "All you know is that I only have one child. She was usually pampered and spoiled, causing her to develop a stubborn temper. Of all the people she could have fallen for, she just had to fall for. Sigh, after scolding her a little, she actually said she wouldn't come back, and she really didn't. And then why didn't you go find your daughter? Why did you come to my Fengtian?" Wu Hong asked. "I don't even know where she is." Monarch, you must be joking. Yesterday I saw her in another continent. I wanted to forcefully bring her back, but... He seemed to have thought of something and frowned. Unfortunately, I met two troublesome sword immortals. I almost fell into their trap. If not for Imperial Lord Jija's presence and the divine artifact, the divine refining bell, Jija would have died. I barely managed to take them down. He sighed again before continuing, but that child took the opportunity when I was fighting with them to run away again. I searched for her for a whole day, but I couldn't find any trace of her. The more he spoke, the angrier he became. He glared fiercely at the small bell in his hand before continuing, I'm guessing that she must have been tricked by those two sword immortals during this period of time. She must have gone into hiding again. I heard that Monarch Wu Hong is on good terms with the monarchs of the Immortal Cultivation Continent. I wonder if you can help me ask the immortals below to help me look for her? Wu Hong nodded. This was not a big deal. But since you've already captured those two sword immortals, why don't you just ask them where they are? Although I've captured them, this divine refining bell only activates once every 7 days. I can't release them for questioning right now. As he spoke, he turned his hand and a small silver bell appeared in his palm. There was a faint flicker of fire in the middle of the bell. If he had to wait for another 7 days, his daughter would have run away long ago. That's easy to solve, Wu Hong suggested. Blackbird suggested. The harpies have a heart inquisition formation that allows us to see the memories of others when they are weak. As long as we set up this array on this bell, we might be able to find out where your little princess is. That's great. Bai Ti was overjoyed. He hurriedly handed the bell over. Thank you, Monarch Wu Hong. Wu Hong took the bell. He could faintly sense the auras of two immortals within it. As he conjured a seal, he asked, Oh yes, who are the sword immortals in this bell? They seem to be extraordinary to be able to compete with you. I don't know either. I've never seen them before. Oh, I heard them say that they're from some invincible sect. Clang. Wu Hong's hand trembled. He threw the small bell in his hand away. Invincible. Invincible. Invincible sect. You're freaking kidding me? Wu Hong. Bai Ti was shocked. He hurriedly caught the divine refining bell. What's wrong with you? Before he could finish speaking, he saw that Wu Hong's face had turned pale. His hands were trembling like leaves in the wind. No. He must have been listening in the wrong direction. You say that again. Where are they from? Feng Tsang Invincible Sect. Boom. A bolt of lightning struck Wu Hong's heart. He felt as if his entire world had been burnt to a crisp. Pooey, he felt as if he was going to vomit blood. Bai Ti. He suddenly grabbed Bai Ti's hand and said anxiously, Listen to me. Hurry, let them go right now. Hurry. Otherwise it'll be too late. What? Bai Ti looked confused. But this bell will take 7 days to, then smash it. Wu Hong was about to cry. Use immortal weapons, special lightning, primordial fire. Anything will do. Hurry up and let them go. But this is a divine artifact. What the hell is a divine artifact? Who cares about it now? Oh yes, you can use a divine artifact to smash it open. Wait, I'll give it to you. As he spoke, he took out a guqin and stuffed it into Bai Ti's hands. Wu Wang Qin, here. Use this to smash it. Forget it, let me do it. With that, he raised the guqin in his hands and threw it into Bai Ti's hands. Wait, Emperor Wu. That's not how you should use a guqin. Just as the guqin was about to smash down, the bell in Bai Ti's hands suddenly emitted a blinding white light. The originally palm-sized bell began to grow larger and larger. Bai Ti had no choice but to throw it to the ground. In an instant, it had grown to the height of a human. Following that, there was a cracking sound. Cracks began to appear on the silver surface of the bell. The cracks began to spread across the entire surface of the bell. In a short span of 3 seconds, the cracks had covered the entire surface of the bell. This is... Bai Ti was shocked. My divine refinement. Before he could finish speaking, there was a loud crash. The silver bell broke into pieces. In an instant, a huge amount of sword chi covered the entire sky and attacked Bai Ti. Chapter 187. Celestial Emperor Wu Hong, Invincible Sect has always been on good terms with you, Feng Tian. The batch of immortal seeds you provided us was really good. Shining even specially asked us to thank you properly next time. We sincerely want to be friends with you. You're right, fellow immortal. Even that child Xian Tong misses the 2 celestial emperors and wants to visit you. This is all fate. We are all in the same realm. Since we are fated, we should cherish it, don't you think so? You're right, fellow immortal. Although Invincible Sect is not an immortal sect, we are still an immortal sect with principles. Our disciples are all kind and not people who cause trouble. But we are not people who are afraid of trouble. You're right, fellow immortal. Celestial Emperor wants to make friends, of course we can't say anything. But as the saying goes, cultivation is risky, we have to be careful when making friends. We can make friends that we should, but we shouldn't make friends that we shouldn't. You're right, fellow immortal. Actually, you're in Celestial Emperor. It doesn't matter if you don't have good relationships. Who can do anything to you? There's only one person who can do anything to you. Why do you have to make trouble for yourself? You're right, fellow immortal. As for that Celestial Emperor Bai Ti, Shining caught a fox demon that came to Invincible Sect to steal things. We found the words X and Han on her body and wanted to investigate. On the way there, Bai Ti didn't even ask for the reason. Instead, he attacked us and locked us in the bell. You know, our Invincible Sect can't stand people who are unreasonable. Fellow immortal, you're right. Therefore, today's matter of breaking the bell and this battle are all because we have no other choice. Don't you think so? Fellow immortal, you're right. I understand your logic, but why did you have to beat him up too? And you even hit him in the face. What happened to being reasonable? Most importantly, he didn't even dare to retaliate. Then today's matter. It's my fault. Wu Hong nodded vigorously. I didn't know the right person and made friends blindly. Celestial Emperor is indeed a reasonable person. In that case, Lone Moon was about to cut to the chase and talk about compensation. With a loud crash, a figure dressed in green fell into the pond beside them. It was Bai Ti, who had been beaten like a dog by Yi Qing. The huge sword chi in the air stopped, and Yi Qing's figure landed. Then, he turned to look at Crow, who was kneeling by the side. Blackbird's entire body trembled. Without waiting for the other party to make a move, he immediately raised a hand and said, "Fellow immortal, please wait. I understand. After he finished speaking, he quickly stood up and walked to the side of the pool. With a clean leap, he fell into the pool with a splash. Yi Qing, who had no intention of beating him up. Lone Moon, who only wanted to blackmail immortal stones. It wasn't a good thing to meet teammates that were too cooperative. Tenzhou Hiyun Palace. Shining was about to fall asleep from waiting. I say that chicken. Chu Xian wanted to cry but no tears came out. So his name was confirmed as Chicken? Chicken is here. Are you sure you're leading us in the right direction? Shining looked at the sky palace in front of her, which had already been demolished. Yes, exalted goddess. I'm sure that this is Hiyun Palace. Bai Ti lives here. Oh, but we've already waited for 3 hours. Will that white chicken really come back? It's Bai Ti. Bai Ti is not in this heavenly palace. Even Jizha doesn't know where he went. That's why it's safest to wait here. Who's Jizha? Exalted goddess. Chu Xian's mouth twitched. He pointed at her feet and said, "The one you're stepping on is Emperor Jizhe of the Changnua continent. Didn't you hear from the immortal officials that Bai Ti might have gone to look for Emperor Jizhe of the Changnua continent? That's why you went to the neighboring continent to capture him and beat him up. Don't forget who he is just because you don't have a nickname." Xining retracted her foot and turned to sit on a rock beside her. "So, how long do I have to wait?" She was hungry. A day later. In the rear hall of the Invincible Sect. Smoke slowly rose from the kitchen. The wooden table in the courtyard was densely packed with more than a dozen fragrant dishes. Surprisingly, Xining was the only one sitting at the table. She was wolfing down the vegetables in front of her. There were more than 10 people in the courtyard. 4 of them were sitting on wooden stools. Although they were all emitting immortal qi, their feet were close together and their hands were on their knees. Their backs were ramrod straight. They were as well behaved as they could be. They were the 4 celestial emperors. No one spoke. The entire courtyard reverberated with the sound of people chewing on vegetables. Bai Ti. That's scary. The sword immortal who beat him is cutting meat. Is this a threat? Jizhe. That's scary. The exalted goddess is eating meat. Is this a threat? Wu Hong. That's scary. The exalted goddess looks like she wants more food. Does she really want to eat him? Chu Xian. That's scary. Wait, why should he be afraid? Chu Xian. Why are you sitting there? Lone Moon glared at Chu Xian. Can't he tell that he's sitting at the defendant's stand? Chu Xian paused. Then he reacted. That's right. He didn't do anything wrong. Why was he sitting there? Damn. Chu Xian was used to sitting on the same level as the 10 celestial emperors. He stood up immediately and stood beside Lone Moon. Then he threw the white-furred fox beside him onto the bench. Jiao. Bai Ti's heart ached. He wanted to hug the fox beside him. But before he could do so, he retracted his hand and continued to sit there. Tell me, how do you intend to resolve this? Lone Moon rolled his eyes. He turned around and nudged Xining. We're dealing with serious matters. Sit over there. Don't get in the way. Xining paused. She stood up, only to find that all the other chairs had been moved to the defendant's stand. There was no chair left. Exalted goddess, I have a chair here. Chu Xian's eyes lit up. He immediately retrieved an armchair from his storage bag and put it down. Please have a seat. Thank you. Xining then sat down and continued to eat without any distractions. Yi Qing, who was about to move the chair. Little b****. Chu Xian, why do I feel a chill down my spine? Exalted goddess. Fellow immortals, it's a misunderstanding. It's really a misunderstanding. Jizhe, who had been beaten up the most, tried to shift the blame to Bai Ti. Bai Qiao is the White Thearcha's only daughter. The White Thearch went out to look for her because she did not return home for a long time. I met him by chance on the road. We really don't know each other well. Bai Ti. What a disloyal fellow. He glared at him, cupped his fists and said, I have indeed misunderstood the two of you. I saw Jiao Jiao in your hands and she was injured. I thought it was you. I attacked her in a moment of desperation. When I regained my senses, you were already locked up in the divine artifact. That's why. Now that things have come to this, no matter what you want to do with me, I am willing to accept it. And me, exalted goddess, me too. Jizhe immediately raised his hand. As long as they did not kill him, he would give up his position as the celestial emperor. The remaining Wu Hong, He looked back and forth between the two of them. Subconsciously he raised his hand as well. I didn't do anything. Is identical. If fellow immortals are willing to let my daughter and me go, no matter what you ask of us, Bai Zhao will do it. I don't want to go back. Before he could finish speaking, the fox demon, who had been curled into a ball, suddenly spoke up. Chapter 188. Jiao Jiao. Bai Ti chided her. Why was she still throwing a tantrum? No, I don't want to go back. Bai Qiao shook her head vigorously. Her voice was full of panic. It wasn't easy for me to find the spirit convening lamp. As long as I have it, I can definitely. Jiao Jiao. Bai Ti's voice deepened as he interrupted her. He said angrily, Why are you so stubborn? Celestial Emperor Xian Han will never like you. So what if you found the spirit convening lamp? It won't change anything. But he's injured. Bai Qiao argued anxiously. His primordial spirit is injured. That's why he doesn't feel anything for me. As long as he recovers, he will understand who is the best person for him. AI, you know what cultivation technique he's using. Why are you lying to yourself? Bai Ti sighed and continued to persuade her. Jiao Jiao, listen to me. Give up and go back with me. I, Bai Zhao, have so many immortals. There will definitely be someone better than him. But none of them are Xin Han. Bai Qiao's eyes reddened. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She turned and grabbed Bai Di's sleeve. Father, I beg you. Can you help me borrow the spirit convening lamp? I promise this will be the last time. 300 years ago, you said the same thing. Bai Ti's expression hardened. He looked helpless. But what happened in the end? All these years, because of a man who doesn't love you, you've fallen from a Stygian immortal to a second-stage demon. Don't tell me you're really going to throw your life away for him? Have you ever thought about what I will do if you leave? Bai Qiao was stunned. But the tiny glimmer of hope in her eyes shone brightly. Father, I'm unfilial, but I've only had one wish since I was young. I'll be careful. I'll be fine. As long as I have the spirit convening lamp, as long as... Think about it. He's a celestial emperor. Why would he need you to help him recover his primordial spirit? Even without the spirit convening lamp, he can still recover. Besides, Bai Ti reminded her. Even if his primordial spirit recovers, he won't feel anything for you. Bai Qiao stood rooted to the ground. Bai Ti's heart ached. He summoned a strand of immortal qi and sent it into the white fox's body to help it transform. A moment later, a white-robed young girl appeared beside him. Willowy eyebrows, phoenix-like eyes and cherry-like lips. As expected of a fox's transformation, her appearance was very distinctive. However, his eyes seemed to be filled with melancholy that could not be dispelled. It was as if tears would gush out in the next moment. Jiao Jiao. Bai Ti sighed and continued to persuade her. You know that he cultivates the heartless Tao and has a heart of stone. Who in the celestial world didn't know that in order to sever all relationships and cut out his own heart, he became a celestial emperor? He's a heartless person and doesn't understand what love is. No matter how much you help him, the result will be the same. But, Bai Qiao burst into tears again. After transforming into her human form, she looked even more pitiful, as if she was about to faint from crying. I can't let him go, I really can't. Father, I only have you. I beg you, can you help me borrow the spirit convening lamp? I promise this will be the last time. Take it that we're father and daughter. Before she could finish her sentence, the space in front of her darkened. She was kicked away. She transformed back into her fox form and rolled down the mountain. His unfinished words were still lingering on his lips. Girl, donkey. She rolled all the way to the bottom of the mountain. Shining, who was still holding the bowl of rice in one hand, retracted her leg and said slowly, noisy. Lone Moon, I Ching, the four emperors, everyone, wow. They did not know why the sect master had suddenly attacked them. But what's with this inexplicably awesome feeling? Shining sat back down calmly and continued eating her rice. It was as if she was not the one who had rushed out to kick Bai Qiao. She did not want to hear such a sadomasochistic story. It would affect her appetite. Jiao. Bai Ti finally reacted. He turned to glare at Shining and stepped forward angrily. You, stop. 3 before he could finish speaking, Wu Hong, Jizha and Chu Xian, who was standing beside Lone Moon, rushed forward and pressed Bai Ti to the ground. Holy shit. Even if you want to die, don't implicate us. Chu Xian, wait. Why did he come? You woo. Bai Ti wanted to speak, but his mouth was sealed by the 3 of them. He turned to look at I Ching, who was helping to lay out the dishes. Then, as if recalling something, he suppressed the anger in his heart. Although he was worried about his daughter, this was not a place where he could lose his temper. Seeing that he had calmed down, the 3 of them released him. Fellow immortal. Bai Ti took a deep breath and looked at the person who seemed to be in charge of the invincible sect, Lone Moon. I have offended you in the past. My daughter's act of stealing the lamp was indeed inappropriate. But, you have seen for yourself that this lamp is very important to her. I wonder if... I won't lend it to you. Before Lone Moon could reply, Shining unexpectedly rejected him. I know that divine artifacts are not like other Dharma artifacts, but if fellow immortal can agree, I am willing to pay any price even if... Bai Ti still felt sorry for his daughter. Gritting his teeth, he continued, if you want me to give you a divine artifact in exchange, I can do that. As he spoke, he turned his hand and a small silver bell appeared in his hand. It was the divine refining bell. However, there were already many cracks on the clock. Lamp, Before Shining could finish speaking, Lone Moon reached out and covered her mouth. Nodding, he said, "All right." Bai Ti was overjoyed. "But your divine refining bell is already damaged. I can only lend you the lamp for 10 days. Lone Moon continued, "What's more, borrowing the lamp has nothing to do with what happened before. He had to pay what he had to pay." "Thank you, fellow immortal." Lone Moon continued to discuss the specific compensation for this misunderstanding incident with the few of them. He harshly shaved off a sum of money from the 3 of them before waving his hand and letting the few bosses who had spent a lot of money leave. "What do you want this broken bell for?" Feng Ying could not help but ask. Although it could still be used, its power had been greatly reduced. "Don't tell me you know how to repair it?" "I don't, but Sun Shu does. This divine artifact was made by his race. How worth it was to borrow a broken lamp in exchange for a divine artifact." Other than being convinced, he could not say anything else. "Oh yes, what happened to you?" Lone Moon turned to look at Shining. "Why did you suddenly kick that fox demon?" She was not someone who had so much free time in the past. "Did I?" She had clearly kicked it naturally. It was not sudden at all. Maybe. I suddenly understand my sister a little." Lone Moon was shocked. "You have a sister?" Shining suddenly trembled. Even her lazy body straightened. A strange expression flashed across her face. She lowered her voice and said, "I don't think so." Chapter 189. The 3 Celestial Emperors left. Father Nyo had made a big deal. No one knew exactly how they talked about it. Judging from how he nonchalantly approved Xin Ying's unlimited requests for supper in the future, it must be a large sum. Father Nyo arranged for Lan Hua to stay at the back of the mountain to look after the large immortal herb field. His main task was to water the immortal herbs. Perhaps it was because they had developed some revolutionary friendship during those few days in the heavens beyond heaven that Radish, who had always disliked all males, actually did not object. The 2 of them worked well together. One watered the herbs while the other helped Lan Hua refine them into pills of various grades. The 2 of them managed to take care of an entire production line, freeing up the entire sect's labor force and causing the disciples' cultivation levels to increase rapidly. Chu Xian did not leave either. After paying a sum of money for food, he planned to stay here for a long time. At first, he followed Lan Hua around all day, wanting to bring him back to Hechuan to repay his debt of gratitude. After a few days of hard work, there was no result at all. Everyone in the sect looked at him more and more strangely. Every time he went to the back mountain, he would attract a crowd of onlookers. Occasionally, people would even cheer him on. At first, he was a little confused. Then, after spending a bunch of immortal stones, he found out from Lone Moon what it meant to be a gay friend. That made him feel terrible. What AF * king gay friend? What exactly is your sect teaching you on a daily basis? What he liked was a cute girl. Was a girl good? To prove that he was a straight man, Chu Xian felt that he had to do something. So he chose to do what every straight man would do. He bragged to the girls in the sect. Straight face. Every day he worked hard to dig up all kinds of gossip about the 80 Celestial Emperors. He was the one who told everyone about Bai Qiao and Xian Han's relationship. The story was quite long. It had to start with the divine artifact of Yufeng immortal realm. Tens of thousands of years ago. Bai Qiao was a Stygian immortal and Bai Ti's daughter. Although Bai Ti was not a celestial emperor at that time, he was only an immortal emperor. But Bai Qiao was also a famous heavenly beauty in the immortal realm. The immortals who wanted to be her Dao partner could be lined up from Bai Zhao to Feng Tsang. But when the divine artifact divine refining bell appeared, Bai Zhao fell into internal strife. Although Bai Ti managed to subdue the bell and become a celestial emperor, his daughter Bai Qiao was accidentally knocked down to the lower realm. That was when she met Xian Han, who was still a cultivator in the lower realm. She had saved the damsel in distress and fallen in love with him. Bai Qiao followed Xian Han back to the upper realm. The 2 of them had a sweet time together. She continued, "At the end of the day, the feelings between a man and a woman arise when they meet a specific person. Their bodies begin to secrete phenylethylamine, dopamine, norepinephrine and other hormones. This makes them feel happy, excited and in love. This is the so-called love. The production of these hormones all comes from the brain. It has nothing to do with the heart." Although he did not understand, it sounded impressive. Love or not, if it comes from the heart. She scanned the crowd. "Have you considered the feelings of a patient with a heart disease?" That made sense. They had nothing to say. So whether he has a heart or not, whether he is a heartless person, and whether he likes that little animal or not are two different things. Xining patted the pastry crumbs on her hands. In other words, there's a problem with your logic. That Han person did not stop liking little animals because of the heartless Dao. He stopped liking her, so he cultivated the heartless Dao. The crowd fell silent. Chu Xian. What did the exalted goddess just say? Why was he the only one who did not understand? But it seemed to make sense. All the disciples. They did not understand at all, but what the sect master said must be right. Thus, without any hesitation, everyone present tacitly gave a label to a certain celestial emperor they had never met before. Scumbag. Lone Moon was the only one who understood. He suddenly felt that all the heartless male protagonists in his novels were all King retarded. Straight face, huh? Wait a minute. This was a martial arts arena. Why was everyone listening to gossip? Lone Moon's expression darkened. He was wondering if he should increase the accommodation fees of a certain chicken who was seducing a girl. Suddenly the ground shook. The entire invincible sect shook. A huge wave of immortal chi rose from the foot of the mountain. The protective mountain array was activated. What's going on? Everyone was shocked. Before Xining could go forward to check, Roasted Chicken Gal hurriedly ran in, grabbed Xinying's hand and said anxiously, "Little Ling, something happened to Xian Tong." Chapter 190. This is the heavenly tribulation. Lone Moon looked at the foot of the mountain and asked anxiously, "Roasted Chicken? Pui Qingyu, what's happening down there?" Nobody in the sect had reached the stage where they were about to undergo the heavenly tribulation. "It's Xian Tong," Qi Qingyu said anxiously. "I saw that she was about to form her immortal bones, so I've been guarding her these few days. Just now, her immortal bones were formed, but for some reason the heavenly tribulation was triggered." "How is that possible?" Lone Moon's expression changed. "Even if she formed her immortal bones, she's just an earth immortal. This is not the lower realm, there can't be the lightning tribulation. There were so many disciples in the sect and they were all low-level cultivators. None of them had triggered the heavenly tribulation when they were earth immortals." "I don't know either," Qi Qingyu said anxiously. "Her cultivation level is indeed just at the edge of earth immortal, but the heavenly tribulation suddenly came. Feng Ying is outside helping Xian Tong set up an array, hoping to hold it off for a while." Just as she finished speaking, there was a loud rumble of thunder. A bolt of lightning struck from the sky, heading straight for the foot of the mountain. "It's starting." Qinyu's expression became even more worried. Xian Tong might not be able to pass through the heavenly tribulation, but at this rate, the lightning would definitely affect the people in the sect. "Let's go take a look." Xining got up and was about to rush down. "Come back here." Lone Moon's mouth twitched. He pointed behind him and said, "The way down the mountain is this way." Xining turned around and thought for a moment. Then she pulled a disciple over and instructed, "Little Green, go and get Boss Lan to come over too." "Yes." Then he followed the group towards the heavenly tribulation. The closer they got to where Xian Tong was in seclusion, the stronger the immortal chi around them became. The immortal chi at the foot of the mountain was even showing signs of solidifying. But unlike when Roasted Chicken Gal and the rest descended, the immortal chi did not form an immortal ascension stage. Feng Ying was standing at the foot of the mountain, supporting a defensive array to protect Xian Tong. But he was not an expert in array formations after all. The array was already showing signs of collapsing. Then with a thunderous boom the second bolt of lightning came crashing down. The spell formation was shattered, and the tribulation lightning directly smashed into Xian Tong's body. She was not a body cultivator. Even though she was prepared, she was still struck until she spat out a mouthful of blood. However, the immortal bones in her body became more solid. "Little Tong," Qi Qingyu called out worriedly, growing more anxious by the minute. "Moss." Xian Tong looked back and her eyes suddenly lit up. "Divine. Sect Master,